and konnichiwa from Tokyo. I'm Hayley Miller. I'm the founder of World VFX Day. Happy World VFX Day! Thank you so much for joining today and for Friday as well. It was so much fun. We had so many people join us and we really couldn't do it without you. So thank you to all of our supporters, partners, sponsors, and everyone involved. So thank you again. Today we have a few hours of talks that is focused around learning, education, inspiration, and careers. So stay tuned, get involved. There's a live chat. I'll be around all day. Ask questions, leave comments, and share on social media. Let's shine a spotlight on VFX.
Hello and welcome to World VFX Day. This is the next gen session. So we're talking to the next generation of VFX artists and professionals from around the world. And essentially, I sent out an email to various schools asking them if they wanted to put somebody forward. And these wonderful people you're about to meet came forward, talk about their experiences in learning VFX. So I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves. Starting with you, Emma. Introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Emma Toubin. I'm a French student at VFX Workshop. I finished this school this year. So before Learn 3D, I was in a costume design school at Lyon. And in my last year at this formation, I make a project, and this project is about the props costume on motion capture. And I would like to show that costume can really impact the body of an actor and can make the movement more realistic by the compression of a corset or the volume on a structured skirt called crinoline. And I made this collaboration with VFX Workshop.
So very much you're using VFX for a certain specific need. That's great. Thank you. I'm going to pass on to Lumi now. Tell us about yourself and what you're studying.
So yeah, my name is Lumi Volmore. I am in the United States, but I spent most of my life living in Haiti. I am currently wrapping up my education at CG Spectrum. I previously finished two bachelor's degrees at the New Jersey Institute of Technology in digital design and human computer interaction. And after that, I really felt like, okay, I wanted to dive in fully into the effects world and eventually, work on movies and TV shows. And yeah, that's what I've been doing. I have a month. I have like less than a month left in my program. So I'm at the end of my journey for that. And I'm excited for the next stuff.
Great. Thanks very much. Antoine, what about you?
Hi, I'm Antoine Barbeneau. I'm 23, I'm French, and I'm studying at Creative Seeds in environments. And I started CG when I was 16 by doing lighting and compositing, and then did a bachelor's of computer science. And then I decided I really did like 3D, so I switched back. And here I am.
Great, thank you. And finally, Toby, tell us about yourself and where you're from.
Hi, I'm Toby. I'm from the UK. Originally, I was interested in games, so I joined the Uni of Hearts in the UK as a games artist, but then really found my passion in CG, and it really clicked.
Great, thank you very much. So let's start the questions with you, Toby, since I've got you here on the screen. When did you know that you were interested in VFX? Because it sounds like you had a conversion there. You were interested in games first of all. So when did you first know that you were interested in VFX, and what inspired you to learn it?
Well, I always had kind of an itch, I guess, an urge for something artistic yet kind of technical. when kind of applying for like college courses when I was around 16, I was very confused at that age and had no idea what to do until I did find games, and that I think really clicked for me. But as I was getting into the 3D stuff, I think I just kind of wanted to push it a little bit more into the kind of VFX side rather than the game side. So I guess it was just kind of discovery. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks. Antoine, you mentioned you were 16 and you were experimenting around. So when did you first know you were interested in VFX and what inspired you to learn it?
Well, I kind of diverted a bit. At first I discovered CG through Minecraft actually, and I saw what people were making, and I thought, I want to do the same thing. And I started doing lighting and compositing, and started freelancing a bit. And I didn't hop onto VFX at first. I loved animation, and then I saw it was back then when the Star Wars movies were coming out, 7, 8, and 9, and I saw the shots, and I was like, I want to do the same thing. So yeah, I kept learning. And yeah, it was just the drive to want to do something even better every time. And because I did computer science, the technicity also spoke to me. So it's always, this blend that really I love.
Lumi, what about you? When did you first know that you're interested in VFX and what inspired you to get involved?
Honestly, for me, I kind of didn't realize VFX or just 3D art existed up until like I think about 4 years ago. So when I applied to college, I applied as engineering, first of all. And then I got a job where I was helping students transition into college. And one of my roommates was learning 3D, just general 3D. And I walked past his room one day and I was like, why do you have this massive computer? And he's like, well, I need it because I do 3D stuff. And I was like, what's that? And we sat down for the next 2 hours and I just learned more about it. And then I think like the next week after that, I met with an advisor and I was like, hey, I'd like to do this. And I switched. So at first it was general 3D. And I guess specifically VFX would be about like maybe 2.5 years ago. I had a project where we had to turn a book into a trailer as if we are making a movie. And I had started to learn Houdini just for fun because I heard it was procedural and that excited me. And during that project though, because I was already doing Houdini, I got, I got assigned specifically to create some effect stuff. And the technical challenge of that was so interesting to me. It was so much fun, like the problem solving. I was running into so many issues, but solving them and then just seeing the result and how it supported the overall story we're trying to tell, it made me feel like, okay, I love 3D, but this right here I want to pursue. So that's how I got into VFX really. And then once I graduated with my bachelor's, I was like, I want to specialize in this completely. And now I'm at CG Spectrum.
Great. Thanks very much for that. And Emma, finally, when did you know that you were interested in VFX and what inspired you to learn it?
As Lumi, I didn't know all the jobs around CG. My collaboration with VFX Workshop for my project, my custom project, opened me a new world, and it was just I don't know how to say that.
Magnificent.
Yeah, magnificent, and just go. I want to do that. It's so cool, and I love the projects with real stuff and CG stuff, and I love this kind of bridge.
That's great. Thank you. So Toby, let's start with you this time. What advice would you give to someone looking to study VFX? How would you advise them?
Yeah, great question. I think a lot of times, I guess I would say don't give up. When you think that a challenge is really hard, just keep going. Because after you're finished, you'll thank yourself for working so hard. And then when you move on to your next project, you'll start realizing how much you've actually learned. So I guess just keep going.
That's very good advice. So Antoine, do you agree with that? And what advice would you give to somebody like yourself looking to study VFX?
Yeah, definitely I do. It's a hard field. You have to keep going. So yeah, it is very challenging. I think what helped me most is to engage in the community, whether it be online or in person. Because online now there's so many communities where you can meet people and they will share tricks, and it's just going to help you so much. And then in person, when I joined my school, that was really a moment where I felt, okay, I can rely on these people if I ever have a question, if I ever need something. And yeah, I think that the community aspect is very, very important for me.
Thank you. Lumi, what about yourself? What advice would you give to somebody who's setting out on the road to learning
I think
VFX?
definitely what Toby and Antoine just said, really, because the not giving up is so important. And also, community has been a big thing for me as well. But I guess the one I would say is, and it's something I struggled with a lot, it's learn to be okay that you don't know something and try to find the excitement in the challenge of learning that new thing and figuring out that problem. Because I feel like whenever I'm working on a new shot, there's a part of my brain that's just like, okay, I should know how to do this already, right? But at the same time, logically speaking, I have never done this before. I may have done something like it, or I may have done something similar, but this specific shot with the specific problem is posing, I've never seen it before. So it's learning to honestly to tell myself it's okay. Let's break it down. Let's see how we're gonna approach it, and not just be like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? So between that, it's really that learn to appreciate the challenge of it and learn to enjoy realizing that you don't know something, because that means that it's exciting. You're gonna learn something new, and it's probably gonna open a whole new world to you. So that would be my advice.
Thank you very much. And Emma, what about you? What advice would you give to somebody who wants to learn VFX?
I don't know in other country how the school is private or not, but in France you have to pay to go to a school. So for someone who don't have the money, I just say the diploma doesn't matter. Just it's just the demo reel who matter. So if you have to learn by yourself, do it, and just you will be formed in a company, and that's okay.
That's a great point to sort of to end on there. That idea that you don't need to go to a university if you can't. You can learn so much now
Yeah.
online, etc. So this brings me on to my question for um, each one of you, and this is like, did you have to move to be near your university, or what did you have to give up to do your courses? Because it's not always easy to sort of, you know, invest time and energy into a new course. So what did you have to do? Did you have to physically move to a town, or did you have to sort of save money, or what? Toby, starting with you, what did you do to get into University of Hertfordshire?
Um, well, firstly, I know a few people who took a year or two out and worked to save up a bit of money. But me personally, I happened to live down the road to the university I wanted to go to. Originally, I was going to move further just because I wanted to gain that kind of independence that you get from university, but it happened to be really good for the field I wanted to study in, which was VFX. So I didn't have to move. But if I had, I would probably take a year out or two just to save up some money, I think.
Okay, thanks. Antoine, I'm not sure where Creative Seeds is, or whether you had to sort of make any sort of sacrifice or move anywhere to join it.
Yeah, so back then I lived in Paris before I joined, and my school is in Rennes, which is an hour 30 away by train. So yeah, I did have to move, but I love the city, and I think it was a good thing to move because you get in a bubble where you learn and you go home and you can keep thinking about what you did, and you're kind of still in this bubble. So yeah, I did have to move.
Lumi, CG Spectrum, right? So
Yes.
this is a online only. Am I
Yes.
right?
Yes, it
So
is.
so so in order to do that course, it sounds like it's easy because you don't have to go anywhere, but what did you have to give up to do it? Was it time or resources?
I would say resources, because I feel like um I my first thing was, having that conversation with my family, being like, would like another year to continuing to pursue knowledge, essentially, and also realizing that, okay, I want to give this my all, so I need to stop working. Like I took a loan to be able to do it, but also I was just like, okay, I need to stop working so I can make the most of it, essentially. And yes, it's online, and but my mentor is in Australia, for example. So I have class at like 10 p.m. my time. So I guess, but I would say that probably one of the biggest things in terms of like I would say I've given up is, I would say, the social time. I'm a very social person. I love going out. I love being with my friends. It's like a huge part of my identity. But I really felt to like I've restructured my life entirely around this and around learning this and finding the joy in this. And I've also been able to build myself a community. So I still have social interactions and stuff. It's just that it's all happening while I'm in this room at this computer instead of me going out physically to do all these things. Um, so I guess finding that balance, like I'm not as outgoing as I used to be, like physically. I still see my friends, but it's really that sort of restructuring of just like, okay, I'm really gonna give this my all. And it's okay that I'm just sitting here in this room for like a year, but like it's worth it.
Emma, what about you? Did you have to move to be near your school?
Yeah, I have to move to Paris.
Mm.
And I have my sister and my brother in Paris, and they also artists. And we have a band, so it was cool actually to move on with them.
So it didn't feel like a sacrifice to move Paris.
No.
That's great. Okay, thank you. So let's move on to the future now, because you're all at the start of your careers. You've all made great choices to be at the school that you want. So where do you want to be? What do you want? What are your dreams for the future? Do you have a sense of, a company you'd like to work for, or a role that you'd like to work for? So let's start with Emma. What are your dreams for the future?
I'd like to continue to make bridge between costume and 3D. And the best to do that is the movie Avatar,
Ah.
because
Nice.
they make the costume, they scan
Mm.
them, and after they simulate them. And so for me, it's my job dream. But in this moment, I work at Illumination Studio Paris, and it's also really cool.
Well, you're there now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Okay, thank you. So, Lumi, what about yourself? What are your dreams for the future?
The line I like to say is that I'm hopefully gonna get my name in the credits of a few movies and TV shows, and then I'm gonna retire and open a lounge bar. That's life for me. But in a more specific way, I really want to get more experience as an effects artist, generally speaking. I think these days I'm realizing that I'm also really enjoying I started a small team of students. And we've been working together for a couple months now, and we'll be working together for the next 6 months or so because we're doing something for the rookies. And they're all around the world, and that's sort of just like managing people, talking to them and stuff. It's making me realize that I think maybe being a production coordinator is a role that I would enjoy in the future, in addition to being an effects artist. So maybe at some point I'm gonna make that sort of lateral move. Who knows? But I would say the ultimate dream, to be honest, is to own a small production company. I would love to, after getting enough experience, like 5, 10 years, I'm not sure, to get some friends, some people I've worked with, and be like, hey, let's start something together and see where it takes
Mm.
us. That's like the ultimate dream. As for a dream place to work, like definitely Weta is like That's like you said, Avatar is every once in a while I have an experience where I'm watching something and I'm just like, this is my dream. Like I want to contribute to something like this, you know?
Yeah.
And I experienced that like with like Arcane, and also Avatar. So I would love to work for studios that do stuff like this. So yeah, that's me.
Right. Great,
Okay.
thanks. And it's good that you've got that long-term view as well. Antoine, what about yourself? What's your dream job and any dream roles?
Well, currently, short term, my dream is to finish my short film, which I'm working on at the moment, finish it to the best I can. And yeah, long term, I think is just to make pretty images. I love making pictures and I want to make them as best as possible. I also love researching workflows and just doing pipeline and new technologies. So it's just something always on my mind. What's the next step? What can I do better? So any place that will allow me to have that, you know, those both elements in my work. And it's a very gratifying field anyway, so because
Mm.
you the excitement of something new and it's always changing. So just yeah, keep working in this field, if possible, have some stability.
Thank you. Toby, what about yourself? What's your dream role or dream job in the future?
My dream role at the moment is to become a CG generalist. Specifically, I really want to go into commercial work, so VFX commercial work, because it's a little bit more fast-paced and has a bit more, I don't know. You kind of have these faster turnarounds, and it's like a new project every few weeks, compared to film where you'll be working on something for like months or a year. Um, I just feel like that really keeps me on my feet, and I'm able to kind of learn even more that way. Um, in the long run, like I would love to be a CG supervisor and be able to go on set and stuff like that. That sounds really fun to me. But kind of short term right now, I would love to be in commercial, specifically ETC, Electric Theatre Collective is what I'm rooting for.
Well, we've come to the end now, but I'd like to thank each one of you for making the time for this. And it's clear that the future of VFX is bright with your inventiveness and your creative talent already. So I'd like to thank University of Hertfordshire, Creative Seeds, CG Spectrum, and VFX Workshop for bringing you on board. And I'd like to thank you individually, Emma, Lumi, Antoine, and Toby. Thanks so much for your time and good luck.
Hello from London and happy VFX Day. This is Victor Perez and I'm here to talk about my latest film as a VFX supervisor, which is Naples, New York. Why the movie is so special? First of all, the movie was written in 1949 by Tullio Pinelli and Federico Fellini. Federico Fellini is one of the most influential and important directors in film history. He's the director of films like Otto e Mezzo, 8½, or Amarcord. He was in a very particular period in Italy that is called the Neorealism. Before being a director, he was a writer, so he was writing, for instance, for Roberto Rossellini. Why this thing happened now? Naples, New York, or Napoli, New York, the original title in Italian, was writing in the 49 when Federico Fellini was only 29 years old. The film was so big that Federico Fellini back then, couldn't realize that vision because it was seriously, even for today, it's actually quite big. But the thing is like that script got lost and forgotten. Well, the manuscript was found a few years ago. Gabriele Salvatore, who is a good friend of mine, and we worked together in other films like The Invisible Boy, Second Generation. He called me just to show me this thing that was like, okay, it's really cool, but we have a little problem, which is we need to recreate New York in 1949. And New York in 1949 has nothing to do with New York today. And in order to capture that essence, it would be impossible to shoot in New York. Not to mention that it was impractical for the production because remember that this is a domestic release, so we didn't have the budget. We need to be smart. So that thing was written in the period of neorealism in Italy. And this is a cue for me because in the neorealism, it was a very particular way of doing movies because it was a situation in Italy so drastically poor that even filmmakers didn't have the resources. But that created a way of telling stories that was very bold, which is very realistic, but at the same time was poetic. And I wanted to embrace this in a photorealistic way, but adapting the aesthetics of the neorealism. And that was my starting point. The main problem was like still we don't have the budget to build New York. So how are we going to do it? And Gabriele Salvatore told me like we can shoot this in Trieste. Trieste is in the north of Italy. It's an amazing, beautiful city, but it's very Mediterranean. So I was a bit skeptical. But when I started reading the treatment that Federico Fellini wrote, there was a side note to the text. It is really amazing how that tiny note, for me, was the foundations of the whole project. In that note, he said, I know very well Naples, because I have been there, but I have no idea about New York. So everything that is in this film about New York is invented, sourcing my ideas in the films I love. And that was the click I needed. Because I realized that in the film, New York is not just New York. It is the land of possibilities. So if you interpret everything, actually, there are many similarities with other stories like The Wizard of Oz, with this girl that is going far from home to find something, to find the wizard. Or Alice in Wonderland, where this girl goes on a journey in order to understand. So this movie was actually kind of a translation to the neorealistic style of this kind of journey to discover. So I started treating this exactly like that. So we emulated the process of the Technicolor film strips, the 3 film strips Technicolor, which is a very particular look. I mean, if you look at The Wizard of Oz, that I love, it's so bold. The color is so vivid. It was something that was never seen before. And they start the movie actually in black and white. So when the color arrives, it was boom, an explosion of color. The golden age era of Hollywood, and to preserve this look of the 40s. And for that, we also use the lenses and the exact same lenses that were built for Vittorio Storaro, the cinematographer of Apocalypse Now. Those lenses were built upon different sets, especially the Cooke S4. It was modified in order to create an anamorphic look that was looking like, the same thing that happened in the neorealism. Vittorio wanted to have a look of like a documentary, these documentaries that they do for the news in the 70s, or something that was very light. But actually it wasn't, because it was like a full 35 millimeters camera. And by the way, Storaro won the Oscar for that movie. And the cinematography is one of the most beautiful in history of cinema. The thing is like the paste of those lenses is very, very particular. So all the photography that you see in the movie is actually very carefully researched to recreate emotions. So photography through emotions. So having into account that the film has 44 minutes, the amount of visual effects that are in the movie, and many of them are like a big coverage of visual effects, and others are even full CG. So I cannot just stop my research in just being believable or photorealistic, because photorealism has many different flavors. The thing is, like, in my experience, I just wanted to translate that into compositing, aesthetics, which is how to tell the story with the light. It's like the equivalent of photography for visual effects. I am very lucky because I started photographing at the age of 6, because my brother, who was older than me, he taught me how to take pictures, and for me that was my way of playing. I really love, and that is why I ended, I guess, being a visual effects artist, because I wanted to create something that looks real. But the look real has many different interpretations. So I wanted to look real like that. I wanted to look real like the Wizard of Oz is real, but at the same time, there is some sort of interpretation of reality. So before going forward into this, what I want to show you is a breakdown to showcase a bit of the compositing work.
We translated the Italian neorealism aesthetics of the 1940s into the visual storytelling language of contemporary cinema to establish the photographic style of compositing. Reconstructions with a historic and unpolished appearance were seamlessly integrated. We emulated every optical characteristic of the historic Technovision anamorphic lenses by collaborating closely with the now-retired engineer who maintained them for over 50 years, including field curvature and focus breathing, diffraction, astigmatism, lateral aberration, color cast, bokeh, bloom, everything at all apertures and focal distances. This is one of the 325 shots completed entirely through 2D compositing, where creativity was used to overcome production limitations without compromising the director's vision or the quality. Other shots were crafted from scratch in CGI and completed with a digital matte painting. Here, the lighthouse and its dynamic lighting on the ship and water was lit in compositing inspired by the painting techniques of Ivan Iwasowski. With 522 VFX shots spanning over 44 minutes of screen time and significant budget constraints, we overcame technical difficulties through technology and artistic challenges with creative intelligence. The VFX supervisor took on the role of lead compositor during post-production, personally completing over 300 shots. We assembled the large crowds for this sequence by using different takes of people from all available shots in the film. Reflecting reality is a central theme in the film, so we meticulously composited every reflection of New York featured in the movie. This shot is entirely synthetic, created by compositing simple and unrelated stock elements together. The challenge here was to convey a sense of scale in the water and lighting through the mist, all in comp. This is an example of how we employed creativity in compositing to overcome production constraints. I literally filmed my neighbor's daughter holding a glass tray filled with water for practical caustics, and together with other pieces of stock footage. The true spirit of neorealism, filming with available resources to achieve a subtle contrast between realism and poeticism. For this sequence, we manually completed only 3 frames and procedurally generated 17,000 iterations. 2 of the 3 shots were autonomously completed by the inferred procedural training, the first application of these novel augmentation techniques to machine learning in compositing. Beauty is the harmony of imperfections.
So, as you can see, the project is actually quite ambitious. So, the fact that we didn't have a big budget didn't condition much the creativity, because there are 2 different planes of creation. So, budget is going to allow us to have more resources, but maybe not to have better creativity. I don't know. Creativity is also the art of embracing the limitations you have, even personally or from the circumstances. And budget was like a huge imposition to take the project in a certain direction. I left the limitations of this project to shape the ideas of how to accomplish the project itself. And by doing that, I had to remember when I was I studied cinematography in Italy, and we study, of course, neorealism. And I remember in that time, in the post-Second World War, directors, filmmakers in general, they wanted to do movies because they had so much to tell. They wanted, but they didn't have the medium, so they were using the cameras from the docu-news. They were using whatever was available. And for the film stock, what they were doing is that they were taking the film stock that was expired, the film stock that nobody wanted. So they were taking that for pennies on the dollar and just using that as the medium. So that's why the quality of the black and white film in there looks that wash, that's bad. And I'm doing quotes with quality and bad because that was actually what defined the look of that period, which is really important. It is immediately recognizable. They didn't care much about what they cannot change. This is what we have, so this is what we use. And instead, they were focusing on what depends on you, which is creativity. So that's why many of the films, of the most important films in the Italian cinematography, and let's not forget that Italy was like the capital of cinema for a long time, that was defining everything. So I got inspired by that spirit of neorealism approach to the work. So that's why I was doing exactly the same thing. And with the visual effects, I had these 3 tasks. The first is the look. It needs to look Technicolor, the overall look of the cinematography of The Wizard of Oz. Even when you build the visual effects, you need to have that in consideration in order to not to overwhelm the screen with detail. You just need to keep enough detail just to make it believable, just to preserve the photorealistic checklist. So physics are there, present, but at the same time, it needs to look like a place that is not there. Like, you know, in The Wizard of Oz, there are many backdrops that are painted and that are seamlessly integrated with the actual practical set. And now when you see it, it looks like theater. But at the same time, that is part of the charming of that fairy tale, kind of. So the director was always aiming to that, is because if we make the movie in a realistic social way, we will end having like a horror, because it's actually an immigration that was an horror. These poor guys that were alone in a city, it would be like really, really tough. But if you take this and you elevate, you sublimate reality slightly a bit, you can get something that gets grounded, but still as a fairy tale. So that's why we wanted to keep that look that is going to be in between the lines, but still grounded in the neorealistic style. When we were getting into shots that were like really, really difficult, I have to keep always these 3 things in mind. I said the look of the Technicolor 3 strips, the lenses, the lensing of this must look integrated with the rest. If the visual effects are going to look so beautifully perfect that are not going to have those imperfections from the lenses, that is going to make the project to be separated. Visual effects from one side, shooting or filming or stock for another. So I wanted to create the beauty of those lenses, that I had the opportunity to work as a director. When I directed my first short film, I used the same lenses because I love that particular look. And I realized when I was working with them that I needed to talk to the engineer that was taking care of those lenses for over 50 years. So he was the one that received the lenses when the lenses arrived from Japan, modified, and he was taking care of those lenses for Vittorio. So Marcello, the guy that is now retired, by the way, he unmounted the lenses, he removed the body, and he showed me the glasses, and he is so passionate. I love when an artist, because that engineer is an artist, he showed me how light is just reflecting inside. So the proportion of light that goes through, the one that reflects, the one that distorts, that I realized in that moment, that beauty in photography is the harmony of imperfections. That is what is being a human being. So I wanted to integrate that. And I worked so hard for over 12 years in order to understand what makes a lens have something that cinematographers always say about a lens that they like. It's like, this lens has character. So what is the character of a lens? So I was studying this harmony of imperfection, which is the character. And I understood about so many technical things, but when you put them all together, it's like the triangle in an orchestra. It's something you are not going to notice unless it's missing. So it's not just about understanding the concept or doing just broad strokes of that. It's just like apply the very physics of photorealism into the paste of the image, and to create sliders and to create a way of working that is going to represent that reality. So that's why I create the tools for lensing and automatizing things, everything done by a human being, not by artificial intelligence. I try, but it's not working because it's just so subtle that artificial intelligence is still not trained for this kind of subtleties. I didn't want the film again to look generic, so I want to put my spirit in there, my soul as a creative. So I work with the lenses as well. And then the thing is like the approach. So that is the third part. So the first is Technicolor, the second is the lensing, and the third is the approach. The approach in itself of the work. As I said, they were shooting in neo-realistic times. They were shooting with whatever you have, and you do the best of what you have. Well, I did that, and sometimes it was even, as you have seen in the breakdown, sometimes I was just like, there was one problem I remember with one shot. There is a scene where the protagonist is in the water and she's just falling, and we have two kinds of problems. The first was like very practical, like how are we going to approach this? How are we going to shoot with a girl, the actress, which is 9 at the time. She was 9, and the water deep, even if it's 3 meters deep. If you have experience shooting on the water, you will see that 3 meters on the water with a camera, that is scary. Shooting that in the night or in night light, so very, very weak light, and to look natural and to look like she's not moving, that is going to be a mess. That is going to cost a lot of money, and maybe it's not exactly what we want, because in any case we need to replace the background because it needs to look like an open sea. So the thing is like, I don't think this is just bringing the story forward. So I believe whatever is not adding to the story is removing to the story. So in storytelling terms, I believe it is better to showcase something that is going to render the idea without showing everything. Because in film, as much is important what you are seeing, it is important what you don't see. So leave the audience room for imagine. Film is a creative medium that you have to interact with the audience in this way. You leave the audience to imagine what is beyond the frame. So that's why I thought maybe we can just do this in a more poetical way, just by showing the hand is representing the life of this girl. How can I shoot that without getting the actors? Because seriously, it was very, very tight. By the time principal photography wrapped, the idea was like, okay, we are just going to skip that image. We are going to see the girl that is going to jump, or she's going to be from the pier, and is going to jump, and in the next shot, she's not there anymore. So we just assume she is in the water. But that was avoiding the problem. And I don't like to avoid the problems. I like to solve the problems in a creative way. That is why I am an artist. So when we were in the editing, we understood that, yeah, we need that shot. So now it was like 6 months after principal photography wrap, we couldn't get the girl anymore. So I said to the director, just give me 24 hours. Let me bring you something. So I went downstairs to my neighbor and I said, hey, how old is your daughter? She is like 10. So I said, okay, this is good. Can I get you guys for getting into my apartment? I just need to get a shot of the hand. A shot of the hand? Yeah, just come. It's going to be like 15 minutes. Okay. So they came and I got the girl. I put her my jacket. I have a jacket which is more or less the color of the jacket that the protagonist wears in the film. And I was shooting that with my black magic in the living room, as you can see in this picture. And that was the actual footage that I got from there. As you can see in on the side, it's me that I'm doing something off screen. So what I'm doing off screen is actually moving an IKEA oven tray full of water just to create the caustics. So the caustics in the hand feel real. So that footage that I got together with 4 stock footages from Adobe Stock, I just comp everything and it looks really dramatic. What I mean is like not always the restriction of a budget is going to define who you are as an artist. When I was completing the film, I realized that, yeah, we pulled this the trick. We made this film with the resources we had. That they are decent. It's not like we didn't have it. It's not a low-cost project, but it's a cost-efficient project, which is a different focus. That was the way I was doing that. So how to embrace your limitations was not related to how to get to the highest standard of photorealism, because you can embrace both. And creativity at the end of the day is like the maximum technology we can get. So that's why I wanted to make and to pay an homage for the artistry of that time, just being playful and explore and enjoying. Yeah, we use cut-edge technology like copycat for completing shots, and this film has 2 shots that were completely done by copycat with training sourced in-house. So we didn't use third parties or works from other artists without permission. No. Everything we used was sourced from our project. And still, we managed to get like a procedural way of training copycat. That is a paper that now I am preparing in order to help other artists just to use that. So yeah, that is what I wanted to tell you about this. There is so much that I can say, but of course I want to share this day with my colleagues and not to be a monographic about this. So what I can say is just thank you. Keep doing amazing things. So Again, happy World VFX Day.
Be yourself, find your authentic voice. It's hard, especially when you start and you're young. But as an artist or a professional in any business, coming as your authentic self and not having to apologize for what that is, and knowing that you have a space in the room and you have support that you'll need, and building your own support for that will be really helpful.
It's a good idea to have a good demo reel, know how to put a demo reel together, and be able to communicate during the interview what you have done, what you have done differently than someone else. It's the thought process sometimes that counts.
My advice would be observe, observe, observe. Those would be the first three, and the fourth one would be, observe again.
You've got to take power back and not give power away to other people. And because I personally am tired of waiting for change. I'm done waiting for change. I don't want to wait for change. Change can happen. Change can happen fast. We saw that. We saw that with Me Too. We saw that with Time's Up. And we need to change. And we need to do it now. And if anyone tells me it's going to happen, it's coming, I'm just going to lose my marbles and go bananas, because we're here and we're ready.
I always try to, have send the elevator down as quickly as you can mentality to bring up, the next group of people. And, I always just try not to, have a repeat of my experiences that I, didn't find, to be too pleasant. I never wanted to be, someone to be the only in a room, because for so long I was that only, person, whatever, any and all check boxes that I checked.
Hello everybody. My name is Dedi Bilamba and I am the co-founder of Afro VFX with my good friend Eric, who is traveling right now. It is our pleasure, our honor to be back on World VFX Day. Amazing talks, amazing insights from professionals, and thank you very much for the whole team of World VFX Day for putting this together once again. So today we're going to talk about VFX, but in the African continent, especially the momentum of the thriving industry, which is Nollywood. Nollywood for Nigeria is the largest film industry in the African continent, and the third in the world after Bollywood and Nollywood. And we will gonna have two amazing professionals sharing with us how VFX is transforming this industry, and probably this industry in Nollywood probably being the next destination for VFX professionals, you know. And but before, just few words about Afro VFX. Afro VFX, we started Afro VFX like 3 years ago, which is a free training program that we started. Yes, let me go back. AfroVF I go back, is a free training program that we started 3 years ago in Côte d'Ivoire with the help of amazing sponsors like Orange Digital Center and Chaos Group. And the goal is to bring a professional training in VFX and 3D animation on the African continent. So, without further ado, I will invite my friends back. So first, yes, I am with my very good friend, Chichi Nora, who is a producer living in Nigeria. She's the founder, you know, of Giant Creative Media. We produce a lot of major, you know, Nollywood movie for networks like Netflix and many other. Hi, Chichi. I think you're on mute.
Hi.
How you doing, Chichi?
Fine.
Thank you very much for being with us. Thank you. We're so happy to have you. I'm so lucky, you know, I watch your movies all the time, you know, now I have you with me, so that's amazing. That's amazing. And also, let me, guys, introduce you to the wizard, the VFX supervisor, you know, Emmanuel Basset, the founder of Embryo VFX, who is also from Nigeria. So we have two powerhouses of Nollywood industry. Hi, Emmanuel.
Hi.
How you doing?
Here. I'm fine, thank you.
Okay, perfect. So today, we're going to talk about, you know, the amazing, the vibrant, you know, Nollywood film industry. And we are so lucky, you know, to have this in Africa, because you guys are never sleeping, always making things bigger and bigger. So we are very, very happy to have you guys. But today we're going to talk about VFX, okay? And as you know, when we talk about VFX in Africa, okay, let's address the elephant in the room. When we talk about VFX in Africa, here is what people think about. That's it, you know. When you say VFX in Africa, people think of this old-fashioned, you know, YouTube clips that you can see, etc. You know what? When I see that, you know, I'm actually proud of those guys, because they're trying to do whatever they can with whatever they have. So I know that people often go online, you know, and laugh about this. You know, hey, me, I respect that, because they said themselves, I don't care. I have few tools, I have few training, but I try something. But the good thing is that today we have major professionals, you know, like Emmanuel with us. We have producers like Chichi, who is trying, you know, to make things better and bigger. So let's talk about it. First, my question, Chichi, can you tell us just a little bit about, you know, how is the film industry going in Nigeria and Nollywood, and what can you expect from in the future?
Okay. Nice speaking with you. Introduction has been done. My name is Chichi Mora. I'm a film producer, a filmmaker here in Nigeria. In Nollywood, we're working hard. That's what I would say, because with the limited resources we have, a lot of us are working hard to ensure we bring the best, you know, to the global audience. At the moment, I can tell you that in terms of VFX, people like Emmanuel Bassi, they are doing very well. My friend, late Dimeji Ajebola, he also directed Shantytown. He also did the VFX in Shantytown. He's also, he was a good VFX guy as well. And some other people. So in the industry in Nollywood, quite a lot of people are working hard with the limited resources to ensure we give the best to the global audience. Um, Even on the story aspect of it, the VFX aspect of it, the post production aspect of it, a lot of people are doing well. So Nollywood, I can tell you that we're doing very well. We're working hard. Yes.
Great, that's amazing. Again, and we have major hits. I talk about Netflix. Movies like Shantytown, the one you produced, and we just saw a bit of the trailer. Movies like Oloture, The Black Book, or Anikulapo. Major movies, where you guys have been working on. So yes, so Emmanuel, Chichi just praised you, so that's great. You actually worked on the movie like Anikulapo, and you told me about a specific momentum with creators, director trying to use local cultural and historical stories that can be enhanced through VFX. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, when I got into VFX, I was inspired mostly by sci-fi stuff, like Terminators and all that. When I got into VFX, that was what I was looking to do, good for Nigerian films, because that's what I wanted to explore. But lately, from my experience, I've realized that where we've been able to push the boundaries for what is achievable locally here has been with the stories, the local stories, the folklore, the cultural side aspect of it. Because these stories, they have so much of these supernatural influences, and there is no other
Mhm.
way for the directors to tell them without having to involve VFX. And because they've had massive support, from big production studios like Netflix, exploring
Mhm.
this angle has helped us in the VFX department to push what was possible, because previously we most likely be stuck doing the things that some of the other producers try. They don't push it as much. You have powerful people like Chichi. They don't like they deploy massive resources towards production, and you get amazing spectacle of production where everything comes together. It's special effects, visual effects, costumes, and they tell these stories. And so seeing it on the other side with these local stories has been interesting, because they are going in the supernatural direction. They are not going so much so in the action direction. Going in the supernatural direction forces us to try new approaches to how we do this VFX, because then the style of how African culture is represented is not so popular. Whether it's hair, whether it's the architecture, whether it's the
Mhm.
locality, it's not so well represented by foreign movies and foreign productions. They're just their way of doing things. So having to figure that out ourselves has been interesting.
And tell me,
There's some
as a VFX supervisor, can you tell us about your work on the movie Anikulapo? I would share some how you had. I think you had to us at Afro VFX. We train artists, but we also work with writers for help to help them apprehend the opportunity of using VFX. We work with directors, with producers to so. How, apart from the artistic work, what was the challenges you faced to make the people on set, understand, etc.?
Yeah, it was a new experience for most of the people on set, because they didn't have we didn't have a way to visualize for them on set what it was going to look like, because even when we were filming this project, we had not figured out exactly what the final form of the bird was going to be. So it was hard to visualize. But luckily for us, we had the very experienced director of photography who understood what we needed to accomplish, and he was willing to work with us to help us achieve what we needed to achieve. So, we had a few standings. We put some standings, that approximate the size of the bed, to help the actors with the eye lines for their performances, and then, to help with the framing of the shot and just the general blocking of performance. And then we also had clean plates that we could replace back in post production, and then put the bed back in. So it was
Amazing,
it was interesting, yeah.
amazing. Chichi, what are the challenges that you see today for the use of VFX. But okay, we talk about challenges, but I know you're not afraid of challenges because you you're motivated by those challenges. What are the challenges and what the future holds? Can we expect an African Black Panther very soon?
Okay, I think the first and foremost, my advice is an advice to every producer that has a story that involves VFX is from the script, you should have a VFX breakdown. It's very important. You don't go to sets and then start running around on, trying to, because filming it, if you're using a green screen, you should know the scene that needs green screen. If you're using a place that the actors need to interact with something you will replace later, these things should be marked out from the beginning. So when your shooting script is ready, you get a VFX supervisor from the onset. You don't wait till when you want to do your VFX, then you start calling in the person. So you get a VFX supervisor who goes through the script as well and do a breakdown, because there are some colors of costume you want to wear.
Mm-hmm.
If that scene is going to be on VFX, so this thing should be marked out so that the costumier knows from the onset that this color can't be on this scene. The production designer would know that this room, we don't need green here because we're going to do
yeah.
These things need to be marked out from the beginning. And if you don't do them, you end up struggling in post-production. So it's not so my advice is from the onset, get a VFX supervisor, a VFX director, have a breakdown of the VFX scenes on the story in the script before going to set. Then also we're getting better. Like Emmanuel said, you can see with the limited resources we have, because another thing is we want the best, but the resources we have, we are working with the resources we have. But with people like you, coming on board, getting people in Canada and working with Emmanuel Bassi and some other people, I know will definitely get better. So my advice in general, because I know we're doing well, I can tell you we are better than what we used to be. So I wouldn't say we're not doing, we're doing extremely well. All I'm advising is we should do well from the onset. Once your script, your shooting story is ready, have your VFX breakdown. It makes it easy so that the whole team, from the production design to the costume to the props, are aware that scene A, there will not be green, that nobody should wear green. No green in the background. We are filming it. And while you're on set, your VFX supervisor and director should be on set. They should have a plot together with the director before the shooting. For those scenes, they should have a plot together with the director, because some of the directors are not good with VFX. I was fortunate enough that Dimeji is a VFX guy. But if your director is not good with VFX, you should have a shoot, you should have a plot marked out, the storyboard. You should have it done with the VFX supervisor, the VFX director, your cinematographer, and the director. The plot should be done so that everything is arranged before the day of shoot for those scenes.
Tell me, Chichi, as a producer, when you receive a script which is ambitious, you have to pay attention to the money, the time, and this and that. When you see a script which is ambitious, with where you have a bird like the one Emmanuel created, what do you do? Be honest. You say, "Oh, I'll remove that," or you can, okay, go for it.
Okay, I will go for it.
Great.
That script was very ambitious. People were afraid. I said, let's go for it. And if you're aiming for the sky, when you're falling, at least you fall. You will not fall below. You get star. So aim very high. When you fall, you'll be average. Then you can always get better. So if I see those ambitious scripts, I will go for it. But I'll make a good.
Amazing. Ima, in terms of manpower, when I say manpower, don't forget about the ladies, guys. In terms of manpower, what are the challenges that you face, to get the proper, skills and talent. Because as at Afro VFX, we train artists, but we also train coordinators, and we also understand that the workflow is very important. Because we work on pipeline, and sometimes culturally. When people in our cultures, people are not willing to say no to the boss. So if Chichi say, "Okay, can you do that?" People will say, "Yes, yes, yes," even if they will always say yes, and later it can be difficult. So, what are the challenges that you faced? Emmanuel, building a team and managing the team.
Yeah, well, I'm also a self-taught VFX artist, so
Okay.
it took a while to figure out how to, and just like me, most other people too, because there were no academies. We all had to learn ourselves. It took a while for some of us to even learn how to collaborate with ourselves, because then we have this mentality that I can do it myself, and then it becomes a problem. Becomes a problem then, because you have to scale up to do bigger things, and you can't unless you work with other people. And like I said, since most of us are self-taught, it took a while. It takes a while. It takes deliberate effort for you to have to learn to work with other people and understand how your work connects with the other person's work. Because then, because these projects are always very fluid and things are always changing, you need to be able to present something to the next person that is flexible. So if a director or a producer says, "Oh, this does not work for us," then you can go back, and then each person in the pipeline can do what they have to do to make those changes, and then it won't become some kind of bottleneck with the production pipeline. And because most of us are self-taught and there are no academies, it's also very, very difficult to find competent people, especially very, very technical roles. A good example is rigging. Rigging very, very complex characters, it becomes a problem. Another very technical role is like hair and fall. Finding specialists with hair and fall. This is also another consequence of most of us being self-taught, because since you are self-taught, the natural path is becoming a freelancer.
Self-taught and generalist.
Yes, self-taught. Because you're a freelancer, you become a generalist, because then you have to cater to clients and their needs. So
yes, we are working on. Yeah, we are working on a project for Canal Plus. I cannot tell about the project, but we are working on a project for Canal Plus, and some of the directors, some of the directors they are like afraid of their face. Not afraid like they're not ambitious, but bad experience. People saying that, well, I can do it. But right now, with guys like you, yes, self-taught, of course. But with the experience, working with clients, understanding the time, the quality of the work, etc., things are getting better and better. And I think we should be proud of the fact that we are building like quite an ecosystem, okay, with directors, writers, producers, understanding the workflow, artists like you just waiting to share their talent, and make sure that the best part of it is our stories, man. It's not the technical part, because we can learn. We learn everything. We can learn. We can. The tools are more and more, accessible, and even something that we are scared of, AI. If you use it properly, it can help us do stuff. But our stories, man, our stories are the major fact that makes me feel that VFX in Africa will be amazing. Well, I know my mom will say that I'm trying to make everything magic and witchcraft in movies, but which is not the case. But yes, I think in terms of stories, etc., this is exactly where we are going. And also in terms of action movies, when we say VFX, it's not only about magic, Harry Potter, it's also action movies. I can't wait to see a proper, car chase in Lagos or in Abidjan or in Kinshasa, etc., etc. So, yes, I think we are going on the right path. So, Chichi, what's next?
Yeah.
What's next for you? What are you working on? I know you. you have a lot of secrets. I know you are working on the next big things, but what's next for you?
Okay. Yeah. First and foremost, I lost a brother that I've been working with so many years, the Major Jibola. He's been my director, all the projects I've been doing, and so we've been working together, planning other things before he passed on. As a company, we have our slate. Yes, we are dreaming higher because what we brought out, Shantytown. Right now, we have after Shantytown, we had Slum King on Showmax. Shantytown is on Netflix. We had Slum King on Showmax, and we took home award last year at the AMVCA Award 2024. And this year we came, 2023, and this year we came out with my fairy tale wedding. It's a love as romantic comedy series, which is currently on Showmax as well. And then we are back to we are people thought we are all about gone, so we had to get a love story, but we're back to Supernatural. Yeah, we're heading to Supernatural and our local stories where we give the best of the epics. Trust us, we are coming. Yes, so we have a lot in pipeline and gradually working on.
Send us the script. We're gonna break it down. Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. And what I like about Nollywood is that you guys are not waiting for anyone, to do things. Of course, we need money from everywhere. Of course, we need more means. But the great thing about Nollywood, from the beginning, you guys are doing stuff, doing, which is great. Emmanuel, what's next for you?
Yeah, well, we're just trying to build a bigger team here. We want to be able to take on bigger projects because the producers here are really, really ramping up on what they want. Like the success of shows like Shantytown, Anikulapo, Gangs of Lagos, people understand that there's an audience for high quality, high bar production, and they want to see that level of work being put into this project. So the demand for VFX is way much higher, way much higher. So it's now, even the challenge is now trying to ramp up to keep up with what producers are asking for, and less about if producers are asking about it. It's more about trying to keep up with it. So for us, it's growing bigger.
Great. So thank you guys. Thank you very much. Chichi, sorry for your loss. And we know that everybody's gonna be proud of your work, and I'm very happy, to have you both guys, because I know that in the coming days, collaboration will be is the best. South-South collaboration, African collaboration. Of course, we are open to the world, but we need the world to understand that we are ready, we are working together, and we are putting things that will change the narrative, that will change the view of African VFX, but African film industry in general. And please, Côte d'Ivoire is just 1 hour flight from Lagos, so please don't don't go around the world before we collaborate. And we were on World VFX Day, and we invite all VFX professionals, all VFX.
Funny enough, our next story has Côte d'Ivoire.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, great. Oh, that's amazing. Yes. That would be great. That would be great. And I say it online, we need to have you guys in Côte d'Ivoire in May. We have an event called Lisolo. Lisolo means conversation in Lingala, my native language from Congo. And we need to have you guys because it is very important for us at Afro VFX that our students understand that yes, it is important to travel, but on the African continent, we have talent, we have professionals. Keep being motivated, and don't try to get out of the continent by any means necessary. You know, we're going to bring opportunities to you, and the fact that we are able, you know, to have this talk today is very important. And for the rest of the world looking at us, join us. Join us. Join us, of course. If you want to be part of that revolution, if you want to be part of that, you know, Africa, you know, we have the most, you know, youngest audience, you know, stories that have never been told, you know, the fairy tales, the legends, the history, etc. We just tapped 1%, 1% of it. So
not even up to 1%.
Come again?
I said it's not up to 1%.
Yeah, not even, not even. So yeah. So I really think that the African continent is the next destination for VFX, and things are getting bigger and bigger, better and better. So thank you very much for your time, guys, and we'll see you soon. All right.
Thank
you. All right. Thank you.
Yes. Bye.
Tonight, the Visual Effects Society is honoring two masters of the genre.
He's done what no man has ever done before. He gave Spock a girlfriend.
I would like to thank the artists, texture, lighting, simulation, rendering masters, and so many others who have made the absolutely impossible entirely real.
It's my absolute honor to present Sir Ridley Scott.
You save our asses frequently, let me tell you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great honor to present the Visual Effects Society Award for Creative Excellence to my friend, the great William Shatner.
I'm going to pass this off to another guy. It is my honor to present the Visual Effects Society Lifetime Achievement Award.
I think too often your expertise is being used as a shortcut. Because it's an inaugural award, I view it as an amazing honor.
I could not be prouder to present this VES Visionary Award to Senor Alfonso Cuarón.
I feel a little bit like an imposter. The real visionary here is the amazing team that make this movie happen.
This is not about technology. We know that we're all using tools that are pretty similar to one another. It's the people, it's the artists.
I just want to tell you how much I value what you do.
You guys are wizards, you're artisans, you're magicians, and I mean that.
It's my very great honor and privilege to present this VES Lifetime Achievement Award to my friend, my mentor, my very first producer, Gail Ann Hurd.
My local movie theater was essentially my weekend babysitter. That little girl is still in awe of the magic you create.
Happy World VFX Day, everyone. My name is Alina. I'm a VFX line producer at Framestore, and I'm here with a very good and old friend of mine. I'm going to let her introduce herself.
Hello, everybody, and happy World VFX Day. My name is Julia, and I'm a lead compositor at Static VFX in Bucharest. So today I figured we're going to talk about how it is actually to work on a large VFX studio versus to work on a small VFX studio. And today's talk is going to be aimed especially at students and recent graduates, because this was one of the questions that we had when we were students. And we didn't know how it was to work on a large versus a small studio, and we wanted to have some ideas how it is actually. Yeah, and I'm gonna let Alina give you a bit of a background, where we started from and how we decided to do what we do right now.
Thank you, Julia. I think that's also because we have quite a long history together working on projects. We met at Bournemouth University when we did our master's degree in digital effects, and that was a perfect year for us to experience with different roles, just get a more in-depth understanding of what each role will entail in terms of the software, the skill sets, the knowledge that you need to have. And our final master project was the project that really gave us a better understanding of what each of us will do in the future and which path we will go. I remember that, for example, on my side, I did enjoy quite a lot organizing the entire project from the pre-production to the very end. So that's when I decided that I want to go into production. Whereas Julia, on the opposite side, she really loved compositing, putting all the images together, making sure that they look really nice. That was the moment when we both decided that this is the path that we both are going to take. And I think it was quite interesting, the fact that we had a similar skill set and the same knowledge that we shared during our degree, but then we took different paths, so far away from each other, I would say.
Yeah.
It's also very good as a production person, because I had the knowledge of all the technical aspects, which really helped me when I started to work at Framestore. And then also, obviously, for Julia, just knowing how the entire production works and how a VFX project in general is organized, just having that production mindset is also good, not only for your time management, but also it's good for later on when you start progressing with your career and become a lead or maybe a comp supervisor. You will need to have that production mind.
Yeah.
I think it would be good to start with our questions next.
Yes.
So the first one that both of us had and wanted to answer is how the deadlines are working for smaller versus larger studios. And I could start with my experience from a larger studio point of view, and then hand over to you, Julia. For us in a larger studio, obviously the projects are different. It really depends on the scale. It really depends on what exactly the project is and how many people you have in the team. But at the beginning, it's always starting slower, I would say. It's a slower pace compared to how it is when it gets to the very end of the project. Everything is very fast paced, and we get to that crunch time when everyone wants to just give the best that they've got to make the images in the project look amazing. I am very curious how it is, Julia, on your side when it comes to that.
Well, yeah, as you said, I guess crunch time is the same everywhere, but yeah, we might have, because we do have different types of projects, we might have I don't know, shorter deadlines for shorter projects. Let's say we're working on a commercial and we might have to deliver something every couple of days or every 3 days, depending on the brief and where we are at with the project. Also, because we're working on movies and TV series as well, those are different types of deadlines. There are longer deadlines. We might have, let's say, creative deadlines where we need to sort out the look of a shot, and then we have the final QC and technical and final deadline. So they are kind of different, but you need to adapt, and during crunch time, you need to do your best to pull out that shot.
Absolutely. In terms of the culture and environment that you get on your side, how would you describe your experience so far?
Well, we're a small team. We're about 20 or 20 something people, and everybody knows everybody. We're not changing teams when we're changing projects. We usually stay within the same teams. Maybe some of us are gonna be migrating to a certain project, and the other ones are going for another project. But still, we're working with the same people. When I joined, we were about 7 or 8, and that was during the pandemic. We were much smaller back then, but still, we're still a small studio, and it's very interesting because if we say, oh, let's have a social, we don't need to organize it, I don't know, 2 months in advance. We might organize it on the day, or during that week we might say, okay, let's just go to the pub on Friday. But that also means that it's just our studio. It's not like in London where you bump into other artists in the same pubs, or in Canada or Australia or other VFX hubs. So that's why, like, let's say in here, especially in Romania, you might say, okay, we don't have such a large community, and that's what we thought. And we said in March this year, we said, oh, let's just organize, like a social, but also turn it into a small one-day conference. And we invited some of our friends from DNEG, from Framestore, to give a little talk about their experience in the industry and so on. And that turned out great, actually. We had about 100 people attending. They came from all over Romania and also from Moldova. We had some people, and it went great. And we actually realized, okay, we do have a community here, and it's quite a community. But given that you're in a small studio, you need to get involved on your own. It's not like, okay, networking just happens. You need to be there and stay in the loop. But how it is in a large studio, Alina? Because things are different there.
They are quite different indeed. So my experience so far, obviously, large studios have a more structured, I would say, just way of working. So they are more structured. I think they are pretty much focusing on teamwork, collaboration, and all the professional development that you get with the entire process. We do have quite a lot of people working on projects because they are large scale projects, and obviously the team will be bigger. But I think you also get the chance to connect with the people that you work with, depending on how long you're going to be on the project for, obviously. I think it's quite different compared to what you described, because if you're working within the compositing department, or if you're working within the production department, obviously you're going to know your team very well because you're working so closely every single day with them. But all of a sudden, you might not necessarily know everyone who's working in effects or who's working on the asset side. So I think that's maybe the downside of working as part of a larger studio, because you get to know specific people very well from your department, but you might not get to build very close friendships or relationships with everyone else. Obviously, over the time, if you get to work with them or you realize that you get along very well with somebody, networking is networking. But yeah, it maybe doesn't feel as close a family or that sort of relationship as you might get as part of a smaller studio.
Yeah.
In terms of social events, we obviously have a lot of them, and we have them organized in advance. Everyone receives an invite, even if it's a project-based or if it's company-wide. Everyone will know well in advance when the social event is, just to make sure that obviously everyone gets enough time to plan their own time to make sure they can attend, or just see how they organize themselves on the day. So it is indeed quite different, and it feels maybe more structured and more rigid in terms of how the structure is. But I think it's really good in terms of, meeting new people, building your network, and so on.
Yep, that makes sense.
In terms of resources and technology, because obviously larger studio will have different resources, different pipelines. What's your experience so far on your side?
Well, obviously we're not necessarily working on a project from start to finish. Like, let's say if we're working on a feature film, we might not work on, we're definitely not working on all the VFX shots. It also depends on the project. There might be 3 VFX shots, but that doesn't happen so often. So we might join for just a few shots, which means that we don't need that many resources. So maybe we don't need the biggest render farm out there. In terms of pipeline also, we don't have in-house people specialized in pipeline. We wish we did, but we are collaborating with a company that does the pipeline for us, and that's honestly amazing. Also, in terms of other resources, we're working in the same software. We're not changing that, and we're trying to adapt to the industry. We are trying out new software every once in a while, but we are staying with the industry on that aspect. How it is on your side with resources and technology? I know you obviously have in-house people and everything for your pipeline.
It's again just down to the scale of the projects, right? And the scale of the company. Obviously, we do have resources, bigger resources in terms of people and pipeline and render farms, but that's because the project needs it. With bigger projects, it will entail more rendering and maybe more animation to do or more effects to do. It really depends on what the project is about. But yeah, we do have people in-house sorting our any bugs or pipeline issues. There are people developing specific tools that maybe everyone else will be able to use later on. So there is this constant sense of development and moving forwards with all the technical aspects as well as creative aspects. And I can see it obviously further progressing and just going and always improving, as we've seen just in a couple of years now. There is always a progression.
Yep. So I guess we're down to our last question. So how is the creative freedom on your side? So like how do you get to implement your creative ideas in production, especially?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, because obviously everyone knows how he's working on the artist side. Depending on the briefs that you get, obviously it will be either very specific briefs for artists or very I would say maybe not as specific, which will give you the freedom to implement your creativity and input. But for production, especially, it's really up to you how you organize your time and your team in such a way that will work with the deadlines and the delivery. So I think you do get a lot of decision making. You do get a lot of room to add your input, your creativity, especially when it comes to solving problems or maybe conflicts that you've got in your scheduling. You need to make sure that you know what to prioritize, when to prioritize, or maybe just find solution to some sort of impossible at that time. They look like impossible problems to solve, but just adding your creativity, you could very much just overcome all the issues during the production process.
Yep.
What's your experience on your side?
Well, it very much depends on when we're joining a project, because, for example, if we're joining a project a bit later in the production where you only need to solve technical bits, like, I don't know, let's say you need to remove some wires or you need to pull a green screen and put a background behind or something, those are really specific tasks and the client knows exactly what they want. But if, for example, you're joining a project quite early, in early stages, where they're still trying out different ideas to solve creative problems, like how is that gonna look like? How is the background going to look like? Or let's say they're trying to develop a pilot for a TV series or for an animation, and they're trying to figure out the style or what's working, what's not working. That gives us really large room to play with the ideas and to bounce off ideas with the director, see what's working and what's not working. And also we're trying to encourage our junior artists as well to come up with ideas, because maybe the director liked their ideas. It's not necessarily that you need to be a lead or a supervisor to get to propose something. Like, you can be creative and be a junior.
Absolutely. So I think that's really important, to give even the juniors the chance to come with their own creative input. That will obviously build confidence, and later on down the process, when they get to play with multiple shots and they gather the experience, you might be able to just rely on them when it comes to very tricky shots.
Yeah.
So I think it's really good to just have that at any levels. We also on our side encourage everyone, when it comes to briefs, if they are not extremely specific, we are always and the supervisors are always very happy to see any creative inputs from other artists. In terms of challenges, because obviously each project will come with its challenges, what would you say that you've generally faced on your side as part of a, maybe smaller studio?
Well, I guess our biggest challenge as a small studio is to stay up to date with what happens in the industry, because since we're not changing teams every once in a while, you feel the need to bounce off ideas with other people, because you get to a certain comfort level or comfort zone where you're like, oh, this is my network. I'm not getting out of my comfort zone. I'm not trying to explore new things. And as an artist, you really need to get out of that comfort zone and, I don't know, watch as many tutorials as you can. Try to network with as many people as you can, even though they're not in your country, they're not in your studio. Just make that extra effort to attend maybe online events, maybe conferences, any kind of events, because that would benefit you a lot. Yeah, so I guess that's the biggest challenge I'm facing right now, anyways. What about you, the challenges on your side?
What I've experienced or what I've noticed so far as part of a larger team, I would say first one would be decision making. Obviously, the more people that you have, the larger the team, it will make the process slower because it has to go through multiple hands just to make sure that everyone is on the same page. So that's one of them. The other one would be crunch time. Obviously, when you work on a larger scale project, you might get maybe more pressure around deadlines to finish off your shots and less time to make them as perfect as you'd like. And then team building. Obviously, as I previously said, you get to know your department very well, but then if you want to build very close relationships with other people, it might be a little bit difficult outside of your department. Yeah, because I think maybe some people will say, oh, I've worked with this person and I really like to work with the same person on the next project, which you don't know if that's going to be the case. I think for artists, usually because they might be for a shorter period of time, if they get to work with somebody that they work really, really well, it might not be possible to work on the next project. Maybe people would like to work on different projects. So you never know. You never know the next team that you're going to get. It's the same for production, but I think for production, because you're there from the very beginning of the process until the very end of the project, it gives you more time to develop relationships. On the positive side is that you get a new team on every project, which means that you can develop your networking. You get to meet new people just as part of the same company. So there is a good opportunity for you to build that networking that you might not necessarily get as part of a smaller studio.
Yeah. But I guess
so.
Yeah, I guess there is not a right or wrong, like which one to join, because maybe you're undecided about what exactly you want to do. Maybe you're passionate of lighting and compositing as well, so you want to try a bit of both, and a smaller studio might suit you better. At the same time, we don't get really clear career paths, maybe not as a larger studio would get. So, yeah, it all depends of what you feel like doing, to be honest.
And I actually think that's a really, really great point that you've mentioned there, because it might be related to potential students that are looking to join the industry after graduation. I think if you don't have at the moment a very specific idea of what you would like to do, maybe starting off as a generalist as part of a smaller studio, because you get to experience with multiple roles there, or it might be a better suit just to start off. Whereas as part of a larger studio, you would get very specific, and if you want to go into compositing, then you would know what the natural progression in that role will be. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for listening to us, and happy World VFX Day again.
Happy World VFX Day.
So, where to next?
This story is a monster. And this is how you make your way into history.
Scenes like these are happening all over the galaxy right now.
Hey! Boomer!
What about you? Get your ticket out yet? So maybe we got a passenger in his carrier, and I think we might be compromised.
Prove to yourself that you have the strength and the courage.
Wow. Listen, when this is all over, you gotta take a break, you hear me?
Hi everyone, I hope you're enjoying the day so far. Just wanted to give a shout out to all of our supporters. We have around 300 studio supporters all around the world in practically every continent apart from Antarctica. But we really value your support, so thank you again. And if you haven't already, please, this event is free, please just share about the event. It really helps us with our mission to shine a spotlight on visual effects. So thank you.
Herzlich willkommen zum World VFX Day. Hello and welcome to the World VFX Day. I'm talking to you today from Germany. And before we get started, I want to give you a brief overview of the landscape of the visual effects and animation industry and where to go, which cities to visit. So, this is Germany. And the main cities and the main hubs for visual effects and animation studios are based in Berlin, Stuttgart, and Munich. There's also Hamburg and Cologne, but these cities are more focused on commercial work and television and broadcast. So if you're an artist, come to Berlin, Stuttgart, or Munich. And talking about Munich, that's where I'm today. If you think about Munich, you would probably think about FC Bayern Munich, Oktoberfest, and drinking beer, which you are absolutely correct about. But Munich has a little bit more to offer than just that. In talking about visual effects animation, there is, for example, Scanline and Trickster. And both of these companies originate here from Munich. And there's also ARRI and the beloved ARRI Alexa cameras, which to this day are still assembled and developed here in the heart of Bavaria. And of course, there are more companies here. And we have a great, fantastic pool of artists, which are all living here and working in these companies. But I'm here today to take you down the rabbit hole of asset management and gives you a little bit of a glimpse into how this all works. And the first thing I want to point out to maybe some of you who do not know this is that it can be fun. All right. Hello world, my name is Jonas Kluger, and yeah, I'm here today to talk about a little aspect of asset management and how we can use tags and categories in a smart way. And this can also be, like the concept can also be applied to other parts of the visual effects industry in the pipeline. I'm the founder of the asset library software called Das Element. And I had my fair share maintaining asset libraries at different studios that I worked at. And for some reason, I don't know, I was always put in charge for organizing assets. So well, now I'm here today. We are also running the Visual Effects Shop, which is an online store where you can purchase useful tools, and we try to come up with new types of tracking markers and equipment that you as a visual effects on-set supervisor can take on-set for the shooting. And if you stay till the end, I might have a little surprise for you. All right. So, what are we going to discuss today? Well, I want to show you how we can use tags and categories in a smart way to structure and find our assets. But first, what are assets? Well, we know assets, and they come in different formats and shapes and sizes and whatnot. For example, they could be from your internal pipeline, or they can be downloaded from a third-party source somewhere off the internet. Everybody uses assets, but everybody also uses them in a little bit slightly different way. But why do we actually use assets in the first place? Well, we don't want to reinvent the wheel every time we work on a type of asset which we already reused and redid like a couple of months ago. So we want to reuse our previous work and not start with the same task over and over again. So no need to rebuild what's already there. And yeah, reusing also means it will save us a lot of time and money, especially during the crunch times when we just don't have time, we just need something to shoot, to put the shot together. Yeah, so it will give us more time to focus on the creative tasks. And thinking about the future, for example, about the virtual production workflow and shooting on LED stages, it's just, well, if you go on Z, things always go wrong, and you have to quickly adapt. So if you have a well-organized asset library, and if you can quickly pull a few assets and assemble a new scene, this will save you a lot of time and stress when working on Z. All right, so this also means that the asset libraries have to be well organized. And that's where tags and categories come into play. But what are the differences between tags and categories? Well, a category, by definition, is a class or division of things or people regarded of having particularly shared characteristics. So, this is a fixed class, and these categories are persistent over time. So, once we place an asset into a category, it will stay there, hopefully forever. On the other hand, we have tags. And a tag, by definition, is a label attached to someone or something for the purpose of identification or to give more information about something. So we can have as many tags as we like to describe something. Like not only the type, like the category, which is like fire, smoke, debris, but also more descriptive things like the speed, variation from top to bottom, and so on. And these tags are actually dispensable. So we can add new ones, we can remove them, in contrast to the category, which will always stay the same. Any one of you like pigeons? Let's see what they have to say. Synonyms. Same, but different. So, what are other words for explosions? Detonation, burst, outburst, blast, bang, boom, kaboom, and so on. So, they all mean the same thing, and these synonyms all describe the explosion category. All right. Now let's see how we can bring this all together in a smart way, which will help us to actually find and store assets. But first, does everybody of you know about Wikipedia? Well, it's an open source knowledge base where everybody can contribute facts and knowledge to, and it's great because we can read up on a lot of different topics. On every Wikipedia page, if you go to the Tools option, you will find the so-called Wikidata item. And that's a link, if we click on it, which will forward us to the Wikidata project. Wikidata is yet another open source knowledge base living within the Wikipedia cosmos. And the cool thing is that from this Wikidata page, on the right side, you can see that it references back to all the different languages on all the different pages for Wikidata. Let's have a closer look at the Wikidata page for Explosion. As mentioned, on the right side, we have different links to different languages. And in the center, we will have something like the category name, like the Wikidata item name, which would be Explosion, and some cryptic ID, starting with Q17 and so on. And this ID is really unique, which means there is only one page with the category Explosion. In the center part, we will find other things, for example, description tags in different languages, as well as the section called Also Known As. And these are synonyms. So we can take these synonyms from the public domain knowledge base and get more like the same tags describing the same category. And it's all there already, so we can use that. But what else can we do? Well, Wikidata and Wikipedia by nature is structured in a hierarchical way, which means, if we look at this example here, we have material, and a class, for example, is a subcategory of material. And broken glass is yet another subcategory of glass. Since this is an open knowledge base that everybody can contribute to, we can create new pages and new categories if something is missing. For example, this broken glass page here. It wasn't there before. That's why I went online, created an account, created a page, put in some description text, added synonyms, and linked some images from Wikimedia. That's pretty cool. But what else can we do? Well, we can build something called an ontology. In the real world out there, things are structured in a certain way, which are not always the same when working in visual effects. And sometimes we need to have a little bit of a different way of structuring categories when working in our creative field. And an ontology is a way of organizing different categories and in their relationship to each other. So for example, if we are looking for something like Halloween, we will get blood spatters and gory things and stuff like that. And if we are looking for maybe the term winter, we will get snow falling. Working in visual effects, again, requires sometimes different approaches than the real world, which also means we have to structure categories in a different way. And over years building up asset libraries, we have come up with a set of top-tier categories that categorize or group together all the other visual effects categories that we would probably need. And here they are: abstract, artificial, atmospheric, and so on. And these are the top-tier categories which group together everything. Now, what can we do with this? We can come up, similar to Wikipedia and Wikidata, with a hierarchical structure of how different categories are organized. In this example here, it is the category fire, which is the top tier category. And a child category would be flame. And yet another child category of flame would be a torch. So arguably, a torch will always be within the fire category as well as a flame. Now the cool thing is that we have Wikidata items. And these Wikidata items have the Wikidata ID. And we can use the ID to query more information about a certain category, which will give us description tags, the category name, and all the different synonyms. And I mentioned before, we can also link in different languages. All right. For our software, Das Element, we try to come up with a huge hierarchy tree to structure, hopefully, as many categories that we will need for visual effects animations. And here's a brief overview how this all looks like working in action. Talking how it works in action, I want to give you a brief example how this concept of the Wikidata IDs can be used in tools that we work with. So here we see a screenshot from Das Element. And if you type in, for example, fire, you will not only find the fire category, but the other gray terms are the synonyms. So if you search, for example, for fire on ceiling or ceiling fire, you will find the rollover, flame over category. And these are these fire elements that are at the top. So sometimes people just have different ways of how to phrase and how to search for certain categories. And that's why these synonyms are so important. And yeah, Wikidata allows us to use them. That's great. Also, if we structure these categories, we can have a nice hierarchy tree structure to navigate through. So maybe we don't know the exact name of the element we are looking for, but we roughly know like which category, like the top tier category where it belongs to. And that allows us to browse these hierarchy structures by just clicking and going down like flame, torch, and so on. Plus, a benefit of having these top tier categories is that elements always stay in that category. As I mentioned before, flame and torch will always be within the fire category, which means we can name the files on disk according to the top tier category. Why is that? Well, an asset library is there to be sustainable and long-lasting, which means once we place an asset in our structure and we place the files on disk, we shouldn't move them. Because if we open up a project files like a few years later, we don't want to have any missing media files. So we shouldn't rename or move files if possible. All right. Plus, using this Wikidata IDs, we get a nice, like for the pipeline TDs and IT people, we get a nice dictionary, like JSON formatted objects with everything that we're gonna need to build nice tools and to display it to the artists. So we get the tag, torch, the ID, and all the parent and child categories, and so on. And all of that from just a single Wikidata ID. So I encourage you to take up this approach and maybe implement it into your workflows. Let's quickly summarize. All right, how can we use tags, categories, and Wikidata IDs? And why should we use them? Well, the first thing is we don't want to reinvent the wheel over and over again when building up an asset library. And one beauty of the visual effects and animation industry is that we come from all over the world and we all work together. Yet we have different backgrounds and we have different languages that we speak. And that's why it's a nice way to share one common set of vocabulary that everybody can use. And if you're an artist and you start out in a new studio, it's just way easier if they already use the same terms and the same terminology like the studio before. Plus, it avoids that we have duplicates, which means if you try to structure a category like an asset library into a folder structure and place category names into folder names, you will quickly run into a conflict because it's not often quite clear into which folder a certain asset goes. And that's why it's easier if we abstract away certain metadata information, like the tags, into a database. And this now allows us to quickly find assets, even if it belongs into different categories. And if we have a somewhat predefined set of values, we can avoid duplicates for spelling. For example, one might type in the plural, one might type in the singular, and a third person just spells the tag wrong. And if we have a predefined set, we can avoid all of that, which means we don't clutter our database with too many tags which all say the same thing. Plus, reverting back on the languages that we all use from coming all over the world, we can use Wikidata to translate categories and tags into different languages. English is still the most common used language for visual effects and animation. However, from my personal experience, I know that it's sometimes hard to find the right terms that you're looking for in the moment, simply because you can't remember them right away. So, by using Wikidata, we can get rid of this problem. if you want to learn more about this, please check out the humble guide of building an asset library on the amazing Befores and Afters blog and website by Ian Fales. Here's the link. And now I briefly want to talk about something different. Well, today is the World VFX Day. And from us, the Visual Effects Shop, we have a little present for you. For you, the visual effects and animation community. And this is the VFX Screen. This is a free app that everybody can use, and it will help you with screen replacement and shooting screen inserts when you're on set. It allows you to choose different backgrounds, different tracking markers, change colors, patterns, and so on. And the cool thing is, not only is it free to use, but it's also free to use on every platform out there. It supports Android, iOS, it's working on workstations like Apple, Windows, Linux, and plus there's an online version. So no matter where you are, if you're in the desert and you don't have any internet connections, or if you're in a studio, you can choose your tool and open the app and have the same tool work the same way across all platforms. And that's our present for you. Here's the link, get it. It is still in beta. There are some things we still have to figure out, but go ahead, download it. And that's the summary of my presentation. So all that's left to say for me is thank you and have a fantastic, great World VFX Day. Bye.
everyone, I'm Hayley Miller. I'm the founder of World VFX Day. I hope you're enjoying everything so far. You will be able to rewatch this on YouTube afterwards. It'll probably take a couple of days to process, but you will be able to look back at the day and Friday. But I just really wanted to give you a really big thank you for watching. And if you watched on Friday as well, thank you. And if you watched last year, our first ever World VFX Day, thank you as well. We really need the support. We want to shine light on VFX. So it's really important that everyone comes together and we just build this community, and hopefully it'll get bigger every year. So thank you again. We really appreciate you.
Hello everyone, happy World Visual Effects Day. I'm very excited to be here with you all and share our love for the industry. My name is Eddie Anton. I'm a production visual effects supervisor in Los Angeles, and I've been approached to talk a little bit about what are the steps and the skills that you need to learn in order to become a supervisor production side. And so within the 20-25 minutes that I have, I'll share with you 5 main points, 5 main things that I would have told myself years ago that would have helped me get to this position, you know. The first one is to what I call step up, step out, which basically means If you're a compositor or a CG artist, lighter, or a PM or a coordinator, and you are in a place where whenever you get your shot, for example, your brain automatically does the work. You already are, without even thinking, doing the job and getting the shot finalized. Or if you're a PM and you start a new show and you automatically know how everything is set up and you don't feel like there's much of a challenge to it, that's definitely your sign to step out and start learning other things, and what I mean by that is to look at any other skill set that you can learn that will make you a much more versatile artist or manager. If you're a compositor, you can look into Maya, Blender, Unreal, or even look into bidding templates and bidding. What does bidding do? How is an episode broken down in terms of the cost of it, And if you're a PM, just look into compositors, look into Nuke. Like, okay, they're sitting all day on the computer next to it, but what do they really do? What is it that they need to learn, and what are the skill sets that they need to develop? All of those things will be extremely useful because in-house, unlike a vendor where you likely have like a whole production team of coordinators and production managers to help out, or a whole team of senior artists or compositing supervisors, or a whole team of IT, that you can submit tickets to. In-house doesn't really have all those resources. It is a team of 3-4 artists, 2 coordinators, a PM, a visual effects editor, a producer, and a supervisor. And there's not really a lot more to that core group, although every show changes depending on the scope and whatnot, but that's the base. So people have to wear many hats, you need to help each other out. So the more things that you can learn about what others do and things that could be useful, it'll come a long way. In my sense, I was a compositor, and so I got interested in the IT sector of things and looked into how do you build a server? How do you build a pipeline? What are the different formats that there are to things, or color spaces, or IO, or security, And so eventually got to a point where on my own, I could build an in-house facility, not just find the equipment that's needed, but actually like put it all together and get the computers and the software and everything that everybody needs in each show to get to work. And that is extremely useful for a producer. That sounds amazing. If you have a supervisor that can help put together an office, and whenever there is an IT challenge, they'll be there to help out. That is extremely useful, So in that sense, find your own skill sets. Find that thing that you can add to your skills that is going to help out. What I would say is go through a process of first discovery, spend a little bit of time learning about the different roles that there are and the different things that you can do before you jump into anything specific, Find out what a little bit the roles of a VFX editor, of a producer, and of an artist, and of a PM, and look into it and go for whatever you're most interested in. There's not really a path or a specific route that you have to take, in order to become a supervisor. Everybody has their own skill sets. There are some supervisors that come strictly from being a coordinator, So find out what is interesting to you and what you're good at, and it'll automatically make it a lot easier for you to learn those things. And definitely go one thing at a time. Don't try to make a mistake like me and try to jump into learning everything about ShotGrid, about Excel, about IT, about Blender, and everything at the same time. Just pick one and just learn and get to that point where you're comfortable with it. And once you're there, jump on the next thing, on the next thing, and on the next thing, and on the next thing, and so on and so forth, And so eventually you'll get up to a point where you are like comfortable with your skill set, and you have a wide range of talents that you can provide to your team. So that is the moment, or even beforehand, the moment where you can go to point number 2, which is open your own doors. The main or most important point about this whole talk, in my opinion, is this one, which is no one is looking for you. No one is out there trying to Google your name, trying to find you and trying to search for whatever, you are and offer you a job, Unfortunately, even if you are the best compositor in the world, the best lighter, the best coordinator, the best PM, it doesn't matter. Like you need to get yourself out there and you need to introduce yourself to the world in order for it to receive your talents and everything that you can provide. I understand that, especially as artists, we have to just stay in our little computer, in our little bubble in a cave and just put our headphones on and focus on our shots. But the role of a production supervisor is nothing like that. You need to have your headphones off and you need to be talking to people all the time and you need to network and know everybody. So the sooner than you can get to it, the better. Okay. And so how do you do it? Okay, sure, we need to network, but how do we really do it? I think a good point to start is to learn the industry, just how we know how the main, most famous actors are and what the main directors are for these things. You also need to learn who are the production supervisors making these shows nowadays. Who are the visual effects producers? Who are the executives in the studios? Who are all of these people? Like, what does the industry look like? You need to learn about it because it will make you have a more professional look towards everybody that you speak to. But not only that, you will also learn about their careers. How did they get to that point? How did they get to be the executive at any studio? Some of them might surprise you. You might be somebody that comes from photography and think that you can never be an executive in production for a studio, but then you'll find somebody that had just the exact same career path. I will give you some reassurance that you can actually do it and it's possible, because it really is possible. You can get to wherever you want as long as you put in the work. So get yourself out there and just go to networking events. There's tons of networking events. There's people that you can reach out in LinkedIn and just try to have a conversation and learn about what they do. And eventually you'll find, somebody who is looking for someone with your specific skill set for a little show that needs a production supervisor. And the skill set that you have or the things that you share with them are the exact things that they need. And that's how you'll find your job, You're the one that will find your own job. Your skill set will be the thing that will keep you at that job and it will keep you going. So you have the skill set covered. You just need to get your foot up on the door, your first step, and have people meet you and know you, because you're talented. You worked for it. You've done the hard work. So you just have to share it with the rest of the world. Once you get that job, you would go into the next step, which is connecting the dots. And what I mean by that is one thing that it's not as obvious, but it will be very visible once you start supervising, is visual effects is not the only department when it comes to making a movie or a show. There are tons of other departments and tons of other specialties that you need to know about. A lot of the problems or challenges that you will have during your show will require from you to know who is the person or the department that is going to help out, or that I need to reach out to solve this problem. And you need to know who those people are and what they do. And so in that sense, you have two methods. One of them is just to start from the beginning and start learning about development and writing, and then go from there to the pre-production crew, and then the production, and then VFX and post and localization. Or you can start from visual effects, since you're more familiar with, and work your way to the beginning and then to the end. What I mean by that is, have you ever wondered as an artist, where do EXRs come from? Have you thought, okay, the EXRs come from the coordinator, right? Okay, where does the coordinator get them from? The coordinator gets them from the visual effects editor. Okay, then where does these things come from, the VFX editor? Well, they requested from the DI facility, the DI Digital Intermediate Facility. Okay, where does DI get the EXRs from? They actually transform those EXRs from a QuickTime they get from set, and so on and so forth. You will just step by step walk your way through understanding how this whole train works, and as a supervisor, you need to 100% learn what all of these roles are. You don't need to, by all means, be an expert on it. You just need to know what they do, what they can provide, and how can you help. Because at the end of the day, fix it in post, you're going to be saving a lot of people on set, and helping them out. And you need to understand who you can help out and how they can help you out, especially the props department, the director of photography, the production designer. Those people will be incredible. They will lend you a hand, and you will reciprocate and help out in a way too. But you first need to learn what they do, what their roles are. So one last thing about that aspect is, besides knowing about these roles, I would tell you to focus a little bit on the technical aspect of it. What I mean by that is, especially in the post-production section of it all, try to learn about what are the different EXR. Okay, that is one type of file, but what other files do we do? Do we use QuickTimes? What kind of QuickTimes are there? ProRes? What is H.264? What is spec sheet? What is in I/O? What kind of programs do you use to download and upload the files? Those things that you need to learn. Because in your team, like I said, it's a small team, and the technical aspect is one that typically gets sort of put behind sometimes a little bit, and if you are the person that's leading it, if you have your first call with the post supervisor and post producer and the post team, and start talking about those things, and you're getting familiar or being the one that's familiar with them, you're automatically going to win the respect of the post team. They're going to see that how things work, how to get things done and what's needed. And that will come in extremely handy, because you will no longer have to sort of prove yourself in a way to the post team. They'll already know that your stuff, So although it is maybe not the most interesting subject to everybody, it is true, you need to get into it, especially color space. I know no one or most people don't like to hear about it, but if you want to supervise, you do need to handle the color space pipeline, or how everything is going to work, whether we're in ACES, whether we're linear and we're using color correction collection files. You need to learn about it. If you are within your discovery period that we were talking about before, of finding other things, if color space is something that you're very interested and familiar with, congratulations, you got one of the most difficult parts of the job done. But if you're not, give it a shot. You might be surprised by actually all the things that are involved in color space. It's quite an interesting field of color. Like the things that you learn about it, it's incredible. It is a steep learning curve. It is difficult, but you need to get familiar with it, and all the technical sides, like I/O and spec sheets, formats, all of that stuff. You also need to know about it. Color space is a very important one in that sense. So the next spot, or the next point, is finding your own tools. What I mean by that is, once you know how the whole train works, once you know the technical aspect of it and how it works, you need to find your own tools to work in this environment. Your job is mostly to be a translator. That's kind of how I see my job as a supervisor. You have to work with a showrunner who is very likely an expert in acting and writing and story, and maybe a little bit about lighting, but they don't really know what Nuke is. They've never heard of Nuke. They've never heard of Blender. They don't really know how all of this world works. And just as color space might be intimidating to us, visual effects can be really intimidating to a showrunner. So you need to find your tools to communicate with them and to make them feel at ease, and make sure that all of the words that they say, that a showrunner says, for example, I want to make this tree look cool. like make it look cool, make it look, fancy and shiny and amazing. Sure, those are great words, but they're a little bit abstract. You need to find a way to translate it and talk to your vendors and say, okay, can we bring up the specularity in this? Can we add a glint note and make it have specks and little shiny details on it? Try to find a way to translate his words or their words to what the vendor wants. I use tools like simple tools like Photoshop to have an image. I like to work with images because they're very clear and have a before and after in Photoshop of what the idea is, so we have something to discuss. Or use RV or in ShotGrid, or use Nuke, make a little script template of what notes or what you're going for, Find ways to express yourself, express what's on your head, because people can't read your mind. And you need to be very clear and concise and simplify as much as you can your words. Take a few shots from a movie, give whatever notes you think you would give, and then write them down, share them with an artist, somebody from your workplace, a friend or somebody, and ask them what they interpret from it, and see if what you wrote and what you put is something that mimics exactly what's on their mind and what they're seeing, what they're interpreting. So in that sense, make sure to do a couple of exercises because it's going to come in really handy. You're going to be giving notes almost constantly, and the closer to a deadline, the more notes you're going to give. So speed and being clear and concise is going to help you a lot. It's going to get you a long way. And on that sense, the last thing is people. Like, your job is, unlike I was saying about, an artist with their headphones being alone in their computer, this is completely different. You need to get out and start talking to people. Your job is just going to be to communicate. And you need to find the best way that you can to express yourself. Even if you're speaking in a language that's not your first one, you need to practice it. You need to get familiar with it, with the jargon and how you want to express your opinions, and find out a little bit what kind of supervisor you are. Find out what your weaknesses are and find out what strengths you have, and build an in-house team with people that are going to complement your skill set. If you are a compositor who is maybe not an expert in lighting and rendering, for example, have an in-house artist that can cover that. Have an in-house artist that's an expert in lighting, Same for your comp soup. Pick a comp soup that you've worked with and that you're comfortable with, that perfectly complements you and knows what's on your head too. That will come a long way. And most of all, out of all the people in an entire production, frankly, the most important person for you as a supervisor is going to be your producer, your visual effects producer. I feel like if a supervisor is, in a way to put it, is a sword, your producer is the shield. Your producer is going to be there to solve problems before you even see them coming. There's a wider range of skill set that person has learned. It's just like you spend X amount of years learning your own skills, that producer is going to know very likely a complete opposite array of skills that's going to help you tackle through hundreds or thousands of shots, because it is a mountain of shots that you're going to have to push through, and a mountain of problems and challenges that will come, from the editorial, the post, the sound, the showrunner, the vendors. There's always something that needs to be solved, and one person cannot do it all. And the producer is going to be there to help you and advise you, and you're going to be there to help them and advise them too. It is definitely a team job, and the best thing that you can do is to work with them, to have an honest relationship. Just talk to them about what things you're good at, what things you're not, so that the person is very clear about it, and also what things they're good at and what things you can help out with, and try to have the best relationship possible, because your relationship with the producer is going to set the tone for the office. If you have a very good relationship and you get along and you work together well, that's just gonna pour into how the team feels and how comfortable the team is, If you establish a relationship that's honest, and you are okay saying what you know and what you don't know, so will your team. If your team will be able to raise the hand and say like, hey, I don't really know how to do this that you asked me to do. I don't know how this works. I don't know how that works. That is completely fine. Our industry is so vast and there's so many things to learn that it's impossible for one person to know it all. So be comfortable with not knowing things, try to get your team to understand that, and you will all be better for that, Make sure that that team feels comfortable and it's good, but also that you all get along together, because at the end of the day, you're a group of 10 people, give or take, that are just going to spend a whole year and a half together, day in and day out, like nonstop. And so it's important that you all feel comfortable and appreciate it, and are happy about it, because at the end of the day, you're all doing something that you love. You got a great opportunity to produce a show, the visual effects for a show, and do something that you never thought you could do, and live doing what you love. So in that sense, share that love with your whole team. What everybody brings to the production is extremely valuable. From the visual effects editor who manages hundreds and hundreds of shots, to the PM who runs the team every day and makes sure nothing falls through the cracks, to the coordinators that is just going to make sure the communication with the vendors is seamless, to the producer who is just going to make sure that you don't run out of money, that you have the budget and you're clear to focus on the creative, to your in-house artists who are going to help you with your 911s, because that's what the in-house artists do. They are the 911 team. Whenever something falls through the cracks or we forgot about a shot, they're the ones who are going to fix it, and your comp soup who's going to be your right hand helping you out through the process, because it's a lot to take on. So nurture that team, make sure everybody feels good and is happy, and enjoy it, and have fun through the process. It's a wild ride, but it's incredible and amazing, and you'll have lots of stories to share after it. So I think that's all for me. Best of luck to you. I think there's a lot to learn. It feels like a mountain of work, and it is a mountain of work, but you just need to take one step at a time. Be confident about your work, be confident about your skill set, and be thankful for all the people around you that are helping you out climb up that mountain. And I look forward to one day seeing one of your shows on TV and film or whatever it is. And that's the best feeling in the world. So I hope I can contribute a little bit to that development. And on that note, happy World Visual Effects Day. That's it for me. So have a great day, and hopefully we get to work together in the future. Who knows? Cheers.
Hello everyone, my name is Rehan Zia. I'm a principal academic at the National Centre for Computer Animation, Bournemouth University, UK. We're delighted to be part of the World VFX Day celebrations. My talk is titled Crafting Light, Time and Space, because I thought effectively as visual effects artists, that is exactly what we do. We look at real world lighting, camera settings, and we try and replicate the lighting and the look of the image from the real world onto our CG elements. At the same time, we might be looking at creating a computer-generated environment that blends in seamlessly with our real-world elements. We might be extending the sets that have been created in the real world. We might be creating simulations that again need to look photorealistic. So our characters, our environments, the simulations, all of them need to hold, and that illusion needs to hold over a sequence of frames. So for me, it's a really exciting time to be in right now, because what we can do with the visual effects tools available to us now is we can very fluidly move across the real world and into computer graphics and computer generated imagery. So hopping across those realms has become so much more easier, given that we can use 3D scanning to scan real world objects and get them into our 3D software, and then using digital fabrication and 3D printing techniques, we can actually create a 3D replica of what we see on screen. And we have something tangible to then work with. The reason I find that interesting is that we can craft the look and the feel of the artifact that we are creating across different media, but also looking at different tools. So each tool that we use, each workflow and technique that we use can leave a mark or can affect our final piece in a different way, which I find really fascinating, and it's one of the things that I'm really, really interested in terms of my own research. I'll be talking about some of the projects that I've had the pleasure of supervising, alongside some of the experiments that I've been doing myself. The first one is a project called The Hunt, and this was created by 3 of our undergraduate students almost a decade ago now. And they wanted to have a very unique hand-painted look to their environment textures. But of course, with any project, you have certain constraints. You have your own comfort level, you have time constraints, you have limitations of what the tool at the time can do in terms of texture creation, or whatever you want to get out of it. So in this particular case, we thought, well, after experimenting a little bit with different softwares, we thought, well, why not look at possibly hand painting on canvas and then scanning those textures in and projecting them onto the environment. And that is something that worked out brilliantly. It created a really fascinating look to the piece, which helped complement the story as well. So moving on to the COVID-19 pandemic and lockdown, one of our students again, Ashley Cornell, was looking at, as part of her research and development unit, she was looking at the light and space movement. And given the fact that everybody was locked down and in their flats, and basically getting out from that environment was really problematic. It was taking a toll on people's mental health and so on. She actually looked at creating a glass painting based on how she felt in terms of the colors turning into emotions and projecting as emotions. And she then photographed that glass painting and projected it onto a replica, a 3D replica of her room, which again created the sense of her own thoughts and feelings being projected onto the space that was around her at the time. And then finally, with the render, what she did was she printed that out and scanned it back in, but during the scanning process, she actually moved the image so that it created another level of this kind of sense of twisted reality, which became a really nice, very interesting piece, and was presented at SIGGRAPH that year. Now, in terms of lighting and replicating real-world light, one of the things that we do in order to create a realistic sense of the lighting that exists when we film our actors, our backplates, is that we go and we try and capture the entire lighting environment around our subject. And we do that by taking a reading of the brightest point in the scene and the darkest point in the scene. And this is not just what the camera is seeing, but all 360 degrees all around. And we then take a range of different exposures, starting from the brightest to the darkest, to capture the entire data set or the intensities of light that we have available in the scene. And we pan the camera across, and we do that for the entire 360 degrees, as well as the top and bottom of where the camera is. And we then use that HDR texture. We then map it to an environment or a dome light that encompasses our computer graphics or computer generated scene, so that we get the exact same lighting onto our CG artifact or our CG props or environment or characters. And it creates a much closer blend between the filmed footage and the CG object that we render and composite on top. The problem, of course, with that approach is that in terms of depth, everything becomes compressed. So a point that is closer to the camera and a point that is way further back, basically that all that depth is that depth information is lost, because we're translating real world 3D space onto a 2D medium, which is our photograph. And so that diminishes the depth and compresses the depth. And the problem with that is that when we use that environment light to render or project onto our CG character, because of that depth compression, the light bounce is incorrect. So if for me, I have a light close to me, it would give me more light bounce than the wall behind me. So we have to be mindful of that. And one of the things, again, a while ago that we did was experimenting with photo scanning during one of the camera acquisition workshops, and photo scanning 2 students on a bench on campus, with the intention of possibly adding a CG element or a CG character in between them, and having photographed them and placing just a dummy object such as the sphere here in between them. That created more spatially correct light bounce. So we had the environment map, but we also had the photo scanned geometry there that created a more realistic and spatially correct blend in terms of reflections and light bounces. One of our PhD students was looking at digitally reconstructing the color of Exeter Cathedral, and that was being based off the remnant paint pigments that are found in the stonework of the Exeter Cathedral. This was, again, a 3D scan where she digitally painted the correct pigment, the correct shade of color, and was then turned into an AR piece of work. So during lockdown, we were experimenting with LED walls, And I was looking at pushing the boundaries of what could be done, not just in the context of filmmaking, but also thinking about photography and high-end photography. So initially, I thought, what kind of, rather than just shooting against the LED wall as everybody was doing, because we weren't looking at a moving image sequence. If we had a still image, that opened up more possibilities for us, because in terms of background replacement for a single frame, that is considerably much easier than doing keying and background replacement over a range of frames. So in this particular case, what I was looking at was using the LED wall as a large light source to create a more interactive and realistic lighting environment for the subject. And the same image would then be replaced, the green screen would be replaced by the same image. So you're using the image for the interactive lighting, and also then replacing the green screen with the same image to create a more realistic environment light on the subject, which of course LED panels aren't great for skin tones. Hopefully they'll improve, but again, this was just a test. And then looking at, of course, shooting against the LED wall, but also using game engines and using the lights inside the game engines to then feed, using DMX controllers, feedback to the lights on set in the real world, and controlling the intensity and color temperature of the lights using the CG lights. So you have this kind of closed loop system, which is really interesting. Which brings me to this kind of merging across and this kind of fluid workflow across the real world and the virtual world that we can now do thanks to the visual effects tools and the computer graphics tools and technologies that we have at our disposal. So we can very quickly, using digital acquisition techniques, move from the real world to the computer graphics realm, and then using digital fabrication, 3D printing, DMX controllers, and so on, we can then take that information and move it back into the real world, which for me makes things really, really exciting in terms of what more can be achieved here. And this is something certainly I would encourage all of you to do. So thank you very much for listening to my talk. And once again, happy World VFX Day.
Are you interested in learning compositing? My new course is currently 50% off. Join today to have access to 150 pre-recorded classes, 50 hours of training, using real production assets covering industry standard techniques, with over 200 gigs of showreel material, and access to a private Discord channel with over 2,300 students. This course is endorsed by Foundry and has access to a Foundry student license paid separately. Join today at hugosdesk.myshopify.com.
Ringling College of Art and Design currently offers 4 visual effects courses within the Department of Motion Design. Our curriculum includes 2 compositing courses that center around the compositing fundamentals and provide our students with specialized training in compositing for advertising and short-form content. We also offer 2 courses that emphasize 3D visual effects production, real-time rendering, and simulation creation, tailored toward motion design-centric visual effects tasks.
happy to have Alex Alvarez here today, who's the founder of Noman. So let's get straight into it. But first of all, happy World VFX Day.
Indeed. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining. I'm so
Well, thanks for
excited.
having me.
And straight away, we can tell who's the professional here with your amazing camera setup. I will try and sort this out and invest in a better camera. So I want to get straight into the questions because we have limited time today and lots of awesome talks lined up as well as this one. So I want to get to know Noman first of all. For those watching right now and haven't come across Noman so far, could you start with giving us a quick intro to yourself and
Sure.
Noman?
Sure. Yeah, I'm Alex, and so I started Noman a long time ago now. It's 1997. So when I was 24, I started Noman, so 27 years ago. And so before that, I was working at Alias Wavefront, which was a software company that made Power Animator, but also Maya. So I was using Maya like Alpha 1 at the time, Alpha 2. I was doing support at studios in LA, and then through that and being in the right place at the right time in LA in like the late 90s as visual effects was obviously starting to explode. A very exciting time, and through a lot of friends that I was meeting and studio support, was able to start Noman as a tiny little training center with just one classroom, and then now 27 years later, somehow we're now an accredited college with degrees and full-time students and a big campus, big new campus. We just moved, and so yeah, so that's sort of like a brief who I am.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. So you founded both Noman School and the Noman Workshop. What does each company do, and what are their missions, or do they have the same mission?
Similar because they serve the same industry, the entertainment industry, but the school is a physical school. We do some online classes, but predominantly it's about the physical campus and being here on site. And so with the school, it started primarily for professionals in the industry to take classes and teach each other. So like for the first year, that's really what all of our students were. So there was nowhere to learn VFX or CG at that time. So when Noman opened, we had artists from all the LA studios coming. It was super, super cool, teaching classes. The students were professionals. And then pretty quickly, students who wanted to get into the industry started approaching us. And by 1998, we added our first full-time program. So Noman has always existed to basically allow professionals and students like the opportunity to create a community, meet each other, learn, and for those who were green and new to the industry to start careers in the industry as an art school. So like even though we're on the tech side as far as visual effects and learning 3D and all of that, we very much since the beginning have seen ourselves as an art school. We've been teaching everything from figure drawing and storyboarding and color theory and clay sculpture since 98. The Noman workshop started in 2003 as video training. And so initially in 2000, actually. So 3 years after the school started. So 2000 was VHS tapes that I made on Maya, like just how to do different things in Maya, that became pretty popular. And we started shipping those all over the place. And then I started inviting other artists to work with us. So we started doing a lot of stuff on not only CG, but also concept art. And then in 2003, it became DVDs and brought a lot more people on. And we started getting a lot of big like art directors and from ILM and all sorts of different studios doing stuff with us that was really, really cool. Very heavy on the concept art side for a few years, and then back into CG. So the Noman Workshop today is a subscription streaming library of training. So we switched off of DVDs a few years ago when everybody did. And so the Noman Workshop is like professional training, intermediate to advanced, that's subscription based. Like you want to learn how to do hair grooming in Houdini or animate in Maya or build an environment in Unreal, like that kind of stuff. So they're similar but different. Like the school is if you want to study for 4 years full time, in Hollywood with teachers in a classroom. The Noman Workshop is self-study, and we have A lot of studios sign up for the workshop, like Pixar and Blizzard and Weta. And we have obviously a lot of universities and colleges like Noman that have subscriptions, and then just individuals all over the world. So there's the school and there's the workshop, and
Yeah.
that's kind of the difference between the two.
Yeah, amazing. Sounds like a lot of fun.
That's
Um,
cool.
and so I kind of dropped this on you just before we started this talk, but I asked if you could possibly share a couple of things from way back when you first started. So it's really cool to see how everyone basically starts out in the industry. So do you have anything to share with us?
Uh, yeah, let me just try and find
Hesitantly.
a couple things. I think that since I don't have like, like an organized presentation, but I do have a PowerPoint that I show in one of the classes I teach. I can
Yeah.
share my screen and just show a couple slides from that have some of like the stuff I did when I was a kid.
Yeah, awesome.
All right, let's see.
Very excited about this. I had a Spectrum. That was my first
Oh,
computer.
awesome. That's awesome. Let's see. Can you see my screen?
Yes. Yeah, Eiffel Tower.
Yes. All right. So let's no, we don't want to do that. Let's go and switch which screen. Let's say
Presentation.
let's there you go. All right, so now you should just see full screen.
Yep.
So yeah, so I was born in Paris. Random information. That's my dad, not my mom. That's my mom.
It's like a superstar.
That's me. But this is just I'm just gonna skip some of these guys or slides. It's from a presentation again that I do like as a bio in a class I teach here called Overview of Production, which is just an overview of the industry, but I do a bio about myself on day one, and then the students introduce themselves. But I was born in 77, so Star Wars came out when I was 4. So like that's me with an Empire Strikes Back sweatshirt, and I was like seriously obsessed with Star Wars. I still have all of my action figures, from the late 70s.
Oh, so cool.
And then the Atari 2600 came out in 77 when I was 4, and my dad bought one, I think just as much for him as for me. Because like I can still remember like opening my eyes like before I had to wake up, like because my dad would wake up really early to go to work, and I remember like I'd open my eyes and he'd be like on the floor in my room like playing the Atari.
I love that.
Pretty rad. So these are like, so like I've been drawing since I was a kid, like I said. So these are like drawings from when I was 9, like sci-fi stuff and fantasy stuff. And then in 1982, I got super into computers through a friend of mine who happened to have one at his house. And we learned that you could play video games on them. So if you've seen the movie War Games, kind of like just like very rudimentary, like text-based games.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I was on an Apple II, playing games like, Exodus, Ultima 3, Bard's Tale, and like, you can see what the games looked like back then, like very rudimentary compared to today. Everything's 2D. But I mean, and I actually have it here in my drawer. Like,
oh, cool, the original.
yeah, like in here, like this is all grid paper that has like all of my notes, and because like, for this game, like I've had this since I was whatever, 11.
Wow.
I just keep it because it's pretty rad. I still have all my floppy disks from my computers from back then, and so I was like, I mean, so playing these games, just like, my imagination just like exploded. It's all I could think about when I was at school was I couldn't wait to get home and play these games. I finished so many of them, and again, like pre-internet, so like you couldn't like go on YouTube to like figure out how to like get through a riddle.
Yeah.
So I kept drawing sci-fi stuff, markers. This is my bedroom when I was 13. So obviously like 13, like angsty kid, but so I've got the, Pink Floyd posters and The Cure, and you can see like a bunch of fantasy and sci-fi books, Contact by Carl Sagan, all my Choose Your Own Adventure books, and then
that's awesome.
that's my Apple II for playing games, and then that's my Atari. I was running a bulletin board that I programmed in BASIC. So like people could dial into the bulletin board, and it's like a pirate site, so people could download mostly games.
Yeah.
And it was an awesome time, like super, super exciting. Aside from being 13, because when you're 13, you're annoyed at everything. But I love my computers and just
It's
wanted to be in my room.
yeah, I love it. I wish I had a
And
picture of my old room, but it was probably just pink and yeah, not very exciting.
yeah, it's the only picture I have. Like, I was so stoked when I found it.
Yeah.
And then my parents made me switch schools at that age and telling me that like art was not something that I should be into. I needed to go to a private school to prepare for college. I have a cousin who's been a painter since I can remember, since I was a kid and he was a kid. But he's always been broke, and my family kind of always had an issue with him as like you don't want to be like Nicolas. He lives in France just because he paints and doesn't have any money, and that's not a safe path.
Yeah.
Um, and so I got sent to this private school, and I show this video just from the wall, just because that's how I was super into Floyd at the time, and just the idea of everybody being the same at this really severe private school
Yeah.
where everybody's just being told to be the same.
Yeah.
And I hated that school. Like, it was an all boys, super academic private school where it was like you had to be there until 3 every day, and then you had to do sports mandatory from like 3 to 6, and then you had like 4 hours of homework every night. So like I went from like having a lot of free time to having none.
Oh wow. I never noticed the masks before. That's kind of spooky.
You know, it's I love this movie. And then that's what happened to my art. So, like by the time I was 16, I just became like your typical super angsty kid who was into, Sabbath and Rush and Pink Floyd and drawing skulls and demons all the time just because it annoyed my teachers and annoyed my parents.
They're awesome.
Oh,
You were 16 when you did that. That's so cool.
thank you. I mean, you can see how they're like on lined paper because they're all just done in my
Yeah.
notebooks, like in class and like in the library at school. And
That's a
so yeah,
meaty dragon.
what's that?
A meaty dragon there. See
Yeah,
that in Hell's
that was
Castle
for
Dragon.
yeah, you can see like Science Fiction Club magazine 1989. So and so funny. And then when I was 17, unfortunately, my father unexpectedly died, which was like out of nowhere. Like he went on a trip to visit family and got pneumonia
Oh no.
in Venezuela. And that was like, as anybody who's dealt with that, it's a very devastating thing to lose a parent, especially when it's unexpected. And I was 17, and and I was super, super close to my dad. So that's a drawing that I did on the floor of the bathroom in the hotel in Caracas, Venezuela, that we put in the casket with my dad.
Oh.
Which was just sort of him. He wasn't happy with his job, and he always talked about wanting to retire one day to like a shack on the beach.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what that drawing is.
It looks like Nirvana, or how I would imagine Nirvana to be. Looks
Yeah,
really
just a
funny.
tropical oasis.
Yeah.
And then I'd spent all that time in high school just doing what I was supposed to be doing. And so that was the end of my junior year of high school that this happened. And so my senior year of high school, the year after, I then just kind of stopped sort of doing what I was supposed to do and focused more on my art. Got really into Dune. Dune, the David Lynch Dune came out, and I saw it with my dad in 1984. Confused me and him a lot because it's a pretty dense film. Some people hate it. I love it. And I read the book when my dad died and really fell in love with the book. And, there's obviously the relationship between him as a father. So, but I know we have limited time, so I'm just going to skip through that. But this is where my drawings went my senior year in high school. So I just started focusing like way more. Like instead of like I dropped out of, sports and stopped doing all the after school activities and stopped caring as much about my grades and just decided that I just wanted to focus on drawing.
Wow, it's got like a Salvador Dali kind of effect on that.
Yeah, got super into the surrealists.
Yeah.
Um, and and then, because I was into art, I had, my group of friends by that point who were also into it. I had a couple teachers that were being supportive, and started telling my counselors that when I applied to college, I wanted to apply to a college that had like a good art program.
Yeah.
And I ended up going to the wrong school, and like I said, I ended up at Art Center, which was where I should have been. But so that's kind of like my journey into like being an artist. It's like just being a kid that just liked sci-fi and fantasy, to be honest. And then I already told you how I discovered CG, like through Mist and Riven. So, but that's kind of like, my sort of being a kid and being a nerd
I love it.
and into stuff.
Must get such a big kick out of seeing your alumni going on to achieve their career goals and passions, or maybe they've taken a bit of a turn, but what they did at Noman has really driven that.
Yes.
Is there a particular student story? I'm sure there are many, but is there a particular student story that you could share with us today? You don't have to mention names or anything.
I mean, that's the weird thing of Noman being as, 27 years old, is that people that graduated, we added our first full-time program in 98. So, and back then it was only a year and a half long. So by 99, 2000, we had our first graduates. And so we have people who graduated from Noman who have been in the industry for 24 years, which is a pretty like, good amount of time to be in the industry, who are now like leads and supervisors. And so that's pretty weird to me. And But yeah, I mean, there's people like Kirk Shintani, like he graduated like around '03, so like 20 years ago. Like he's been in Make for a really long time. They're an amazing studio, A52 Elastic. It's Make's the umbrella. They have a lot of studios under the umbrella, but they do lots of commercials and titles. He won an Emmy for the Game of Thrones titles.
Nice.
So he's creative director for Make. So he's obviously the title work that he's supervised there, like Westworld, Last of Us. I mean, it's so many amazing opening titles. I think titles are such a cool creative part of the industry that a lot of people don't think about maybe when they discover CG.
Yeah.
Who else? Josh Herman. He's now the head of art for Dungeons and Dragons, which is crazy.
Yeah. That's another one of those classics, isn't it? You growing up with.
Oh my God, yeah. It's and he worked in the industry for a long time. Like his first job out of Noman was at Legacy Effects. I think it was his first job. He modeled the Iron Man suit at Legacy, which was 3D printed, because Legacy does props and physical costumes and animatronics. So he got to do that, but then moved on and worked on a lot of different projects. Ended up in the art department at Marvel. He designed Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
And then he ended up on Star Citizen, and then he came to Noman for a couple of years as our chief creative officer. We've had a history of having like resident artists at Noman.
Yeah.
So he was here for a little while, and while he was here, he got the job for Dungeons and Dragons. And Josh is like a DM, like dungeon master. Like he's obsessed like he knows everything about D&D. He's like, there's no more perfect person to be head of art for Dungeons and Dragons than Josh.
Yeah.
So when he got that job, I was like just so incredibly excited for him.
Wow.
And he's so happy. Like I just saw him a couple weeks ago, and he says it's like a dream job.
Yeah. What would be yours? Because mine would be, if I could, not that I'm an artist, but if I could work on Lord of the Rings, I'd be so happy.
Yeah. That to me, honestly, if there's a dream job, it probably is Weta in New Zealand.
Yeah.
For sure. It's the weird thing is back in 97 when I started Noman, is when they were beginning to hire in New Zealand for Lord of the Rings. And this guy, Jason Schleifer, that I worked with at Alias Wavefront, moved to New Zealand, and sent me an email saying like, hey, like we're hiring like crazy, because back then finding 3D CG people in 97 was, there weren't that many.
Yeah.
And he's just like, what are you doing? Like, you should interview down here. And I was like, oh, I just started a company. But I was super into Lord of the Rings in high school and like read the books, and so that to me was actually like a really like I actually like considered like, because Noman had just started, like, do I not do Noman and just like say screw the school and go to Zealand?
Yeah.
If they would have hired me. So, and I've been there twice. So I've gotten to go to New Zealand twice and visit Weta Digital and Weta Workshop. I mean, there is no cooler place than Weta Workshop.
Yeah. Oh, I really want to go someday.
Oh, you have to go there because, dude, There's so much eye candy. It's just
Yeah,
like,
I bet.
it's huge. And everywhere you look, there's just like suits of armor and swords and weapons. And I mean,
Oh,
and it's so many talented designers. Yeah,
yeah.
and New Zealand's so beautiful.
Mm,
So yeah, so
yeah.
if I could, you know, do something else, it would be working at a place like that. If, you know, that just sounds like a dream.
Yeah, I'd be happy just to be an orc, just to
Yeah,
be an
that too.
extra in the background.
That too,
Uh,
I know.
so we're on to our final question, and it's
Mhm.
a big question, and you're gonna have to get your crystal ball out. But what are your sort of hopes, I guess, for the future of both Noman, but our industry as well?
I mean, Noman, you know, we're an art school. We're going to continue to be an art school. So moving forward, you know, we just moved, which was you know, we were at our old campus for 27 years. So that right now has been a big step for us, to move into this place, which is really, really cool. So moving forward is just continuing to serve the industry and respond to the industry. So like, I can't predict where things are going, but really we'll just continue to react to what studios ask us to do. Like that's our, you know, if there was a thing, you know, like what's like the secret to being a good school? It's just like listen to the studios.
Yeah.
You know, it's like they know what they need. So you have to talk to them, and that's what we'll continue to do. So I assume Noman will just continue to evolve as tech evolves,
Yeah.
you know, but I think the industry obviously is just going to continue to change from a tech perspective. And it's hard to say what it is because there was VR as like, you know, like VR was a big thing and then it's not a big thing. And then the metaverse was a big thing and it's not, just like NFTs and now AI. So some new tech comes and fizzles and some new tech comes and it's ahead of its time, because I do think that VR is, whether it's VR, AR, you know, immersive CG is going to be a much bigger thing in the future. I read Ready Player One and Ready Player Two and saw the movie, and it's like people have been like trying to make VR happen for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's difficult and it's expensive, but I'm excited for that future.
Yeah.
I do think immersive CG is going to be big,
Yeah.
and that we'll see that happen. You know, the AI thing, you know, like I just rewatched Blade Runner 2049, and if you remember, like, you know, Deckard's daughter who, like, you know, has like the little spinning cylinder and she can just like visualize whatever she can to design memories. You know, it's like CG becoming like that might be 100 years away if it ever happens. But that idea of like what's in your head being visualized quicker and quicker and quicker
Yeah, that'd be
is
awesome.
exciting, and I think that's where things are going to get.
Yeah.
Because anybody who's a CG artist or 3D artist knows that there's still a lot of tedious stuff that we do.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, all I have left to say is thank you so much. I want to stick around with you and talk more about Lord of the Rings, but for now, thank you so much, Alex, for giving up your time today.
Haley, thank you for wanting to talk to me. I really enjoyed it. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. It's Haley, founder of World VFX Day. I hope you're enjoying the day so far. Coming up, we have our art competition winners. We launched this competition in association with Escape Studios. So a huge thanks and shout out to them. And thank you everyone who submitted your work for this competition. Honestly, we had such a great time looking at everything, and we wish we could have made you all winners, but there were prizes involved, so we had to choose some winners. So thank you all so much for your efforts, and yeah, you're about to see the art competition winners, so enjoy. Hi everyone, I'm Hayley Miller. I'm the founder of World VFX Day. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did, and I hope you got involved. There's still some time to write some comments and leave some feedback. We would love your feedback, good and bad. We want to improve World VFX Day every year and make sure that we are moving closer towards our mission to shine a spotlight on visual effects. So get involved. Thank you again. And make sure you subscribe and on our LinkedIn channel as well and help us grow. So thank you again and goodbye.